Confirmed.
Illuminati Confirmed.
Here we are yet again. Joining me, as always, my lovely co-hosts, Juan Ayala, or as Sam Tripoli likes to call him, Juan Alala. And of course, on the other end, up in the top corner on my screen, is Chris Proser from the Men Entertaining Nonsense Again podcast. That's right. The people you know and love at Mensa have put together a podcast with Chris, because he's a genius. And on our show today is actually a genius with no sarcasm at all. Andreas is a brilliant guy who's diving into topics that, honestly, in my opinion, most people with your caliber of intelligence are afraid of tackling it. I'm not trying to put you on a pedestal, Andreas, but you have quite the pedigree. You're a smart dude. And, I've had you on the show several times, and I tend to do some fact checking, and you're legit, Andreas. You've shared a lot of stuff with us, and when you're speculating, you're very clear about it too. So it's always a pleasure to talk to you and get into this deep stuff. No, yeah, and again, not trying to put you on a pedestal, but I think that it's definitely a testament that you've been here this many times, because I try to be skeptical. So here's my Illuminati Confirmed show that we all do together, where we dive into some of these topics, the secret society, the Illuminati. What are they? Who are they? What are they really up to? And you messaged me and said that you had some stuff to talk about in the light of John Dee and Shakespeare. Let's get right into that right away. So John Dee, for people who don't know, was part of Queen Victoria's cabinet or court, right? He was
Privy Council, and yeah.
Right. Take it away, brother. Take it away.
All right. I mean, I guess, let's see. Where were we before? So we talked a bit about Tartaria and this idea of, and I made a meme recently. It's on Instagram. I posted, and I was like, this is the best example I have, which just shows a modern map and the Russia crisis with China and everything. And then an old map of Tartaria and how it's right in the middle on the borderline, and it's on both sides. And you start to see how it's influential everywhere. But you also have all these people that have, in the 1600s, they start writing all these stories about King Arthur and the world before, and they start inventing a prehistory to replace the true history that existed. And you have stories, a lot of them are from, these royals who had tutors from Italy, and then the Italian tutors had books from Ireland that came from the Byzantine, and they came from Turkey, or from Constantinople, Istanbul. So a lot of these stories, they're like the Caliphate is California. There's this great story that there's this island that was California, and there's this other story about Jerusalem being in Moscow, and another story about Jerusalem being in Scotland. You start to see this idea of people after a reset, when they lost a lot of lives and their civilization, they moved their whomever they had to a new place, and they took the name of the place with them, and they put that name in the place, and this is the new Jerusalem. So there's a bunch of these different stories that start to emerge, and Francis Bacon has, since the 19th century, been kind of known as the possible writer of Shakespeare. There are other candidates that make a lot of sense, and it's connected. I wouldn't say it's just, Francis Bacon, because, the Earl of Oxford, and you start to see in the numbers, because there's the Baconian cipher, which is the tool used to unlock secrets in the King James Bible, as well as in Shakespeare and a number of other plays and other sonnets written by Ben Jonson. And there's a whole slew of people that we don't really think about, because we remember the Beatles that is Shakespeare. But Shakespeare is this actor he was illiterate, essentially. And all of a sudden he was paid to put on these plays for the royals and for the council, because Robert Cecil, because there's William and Robert Cecil, the House of Cecil, were the highest advisor to the Queen, and had kind of, as Puritans who knew that she liked theater and knew that theater was persuasive, kind of disappeared theater during her lifetime as much as possible. But it became really popular again with the lower courts in the 1580s. And so all of a sudden they had these plays about what happened to King Henry and what happened to King John, and these royal houses. And Hamlet's a very clear analogy to the Earl de Vere and his life, and how he lost the power, and how King James took the throne, and eventually the House of Windsor to the House of Stuart. King George of Hanover took the throne because the Freemasons had been working in Scotland to maneuver power, to remove the families who had been in charge of England at that time, who had been Britons, who had been part of this older empire. And remember, there's all these scraps of the empire that are left over. Well, one of the final things that came out, that kind of solidifies this, because there's been so much question about the cipher. It's very difficult to do the cipher one way. So there has to be 3 or 4 examples to make sure that you can verify that the same thing is appearing. And there'll be things where every line in a sonnet has a capital letter, except for the ones that are FBRACON. And that appears twice on page 43 in each of the 3 folios. And in the 3rd folio, it's replaced with he who is the right. And there's Bacon. There's also a few other messages that come up. But when Bacon died, a book came out called Silva Savarum, and it was published by Raleigh, who was the chaplain of Bacon. And it is Bacon's work. It says this is written by Bacon, but it was published posthumously. And in it, there's not on the table of contents listed, but in it, there is a whole few pages about the scroll about this place, and it's called New Atlantis. And this is like 1610 or something like that. And when it comes out, not a lot of people notice it, but it is very similar or related. You can, there are already stories like Utopia has come out, and there's been a few stories about this idea. But this book says that across the seas, and again, the first paragraph, it says on the eastern borders of Tartary, and it starts to talk about how there were Tartarians there. There you go, great. If you notice right in there, it starts to mention Tartary in the first paragraph. And there's a few other important notes about this, because it starts to say, hey, and the Tartars had been there, and the Phoenicians and those of Tyre, and it starts to relate that Tyre and Tartary were related. But it's no longer what it had been. This is now New Atlantis, and it's been evolved. They found a copy of the Bible, the King James Bible, washed up on the shores, and these secrets of Nim, like rats, just built their whole society around this book, the Solomon House, and they are using Baconian method, which is sort of Aristotelianism, but a bit more than Aristotle planned. It's a bit more about scientific method, and so they are trying to use essentially Arabic science and Arabic alchemy. And Bacon was all about this idea that metals were made from sulfurs under the earth from volcanoes, and they were really close to figuring out what was really going on. But Bacon said in this book, hey, here's a civilization that has light orbs with electricity in them. And that, he says these are beyond the means of us to understand, but ways of powering these lights. And that they have phones, they can communicate back and forth. And there's pictures in these woodcuts of dudes with wires connected to the earpiece, and they're across the city talking to someone else on a wire. So there's all sorts of talk about, hey, here's an advanced civilization that has all of these things that we're about to have, and it's going to be found in the new Americas. And this is right in the time when the Freemasons are taking over, but he's not a Freemason. Get this, he's a Rosicrucian. And so the Holy Roman Empire in Germany thinks that they're so different than the Freemasons, because the Scottish Freemasons, they found their New Jerusalem. They escaped after the Friday the 13th, a century earlier, after the Joan of Arc and the Knights Templar. And so they've built this new world plan where they're going to go to the places on the maps that Solomon has listed, and they're going to rebuild the temples. They're going to find the manufacturing facilities, and they're going to start turning these things on. But the Rosicrucians also have this information, and they also want to do this. And so all of a sudden begins this power vying between the Rosicrucian Protestants and the Anglicans and the Holy Roman Empire, which is actually more Rosicrucian than people realize. And then you have the Jesuit suppression, and then that begins when the Freemasons really take to the center stage. And so it's interesting that it's all kind of detailed in this book, New Atlantis, because it shows, hey, we're going to find this place. It's going to have all this technology that's been lost before. They've been isolating themselves so that we don't interact with them. They're basically Wakanda. And then at some point, we're going to have to learn from them. And the irony being, everything is founded on that King James Bible. So if we could only learn to be part of this, republic correctly, then we'll be saved. And it's very interesting, because that's the entire design for Pennsylvania and for the Quakers, and so much of the liberalism of religion that's mentioned, because there's a Jew living in this town at a time right after this, and actually during the Spanish Inquisition, when it was not okay to have different civil religions anymore. He's thinking again about Maimonides' period of Spain, when there's Muslims and Christians and Jews, and they're able to interact and have scientific advancements. So this is the foundation for how America is built. And we often look to the Freemasons, but I think we missed that Rosicrucian arc.
Can I? This is
Absolutely.
This is right up my alley, Mark. So, okay, I did an episode on King James, the occult origins of the Bible, right? And everything you're saying, bro, is crazy, right? Because these are the guys behind, right? They're trying to take out the Geneva Bible, and they implemented this Bible because he was trying to get a marriage annulled, right? And the Pope wouldn't approve of it, so he said, you know what, fuck this, I'm gonna break off and do my own thing, and everybody needs to have this Bible in their homes, no matter what. Now, that's one of the most used versions of the Bible. That behind that, right? This is the whole conspiracy about everything. That behind that, these individuals were the ones responsible for one of the most widely used Bibles out there, right? And the Rosicrucians, right? They had what you were mentioning earlier. The conspiracy is that they hid Rosicrucian symbols within the Bible, right? In order to, again, these people are alchemists or magicians or whatever you want to call it. They were trying. That's why I always say and tell people, know your history, because once you learn where shit comes from that you use every single day, you'll really know what you might try and figure out what their intentions were back then, because who knows what they were trying to do, right? He has an idea similar, the new Atlantis is similar to Plato's The Republic, right? Where it's like this utopia of philosopher kings, only certain people could marry each other, right? It could only be white people or whatever, certain demographic that needed to be there. And again, these are the guys behind the fucking Bible. You know what I mean? Like one of the mostly used, and people would just brush right past that. No, that's a conspiracy theory. That's not, that's not
Illuminati Confirmed.
That's just another conspiracy.
But there is, I mean, to the credit of Bacon in the weirdest way. So if you start looking at some of the things that happened in America because of this, for one thing, mixed, and not just in America, but in all of the Western Hemisphere, like Paraguay, President El Supremo Francia forced everyone to marry someone from a different lineage, from a different nation, so that they hybridized all of Paraguay to make an entirely new people that were, and again, they were 99% literate. They had telescopes and math and everything, but they were just genocided in a trilateral war when people were afraid that the Jesuits were building this kind of liberation theology republic. So, similar, California was far more accepting of different racial interactions. New York was as well, until all of a sudden there is a very British push to change things. The Netherlanders were a state of Spain, right? So Spain had been part of this Arab state, nation, and they had these 17 colonies during the Habsburg dynasty. And then there's an 80-year war where the Dutch go from being a part of the Ottomans and having eventually, like, it's a place where you have hashish and you have Western paintings of canvas. Also you have this entire fusion of culture that happens where everyone's allowed to do what they want. Spinoza is an atheist. It's this crazy time to be alive, which is only possible because of the Arabic abstraction of the idea of God, to depersonify God. It's not really to believe that God doesn't exist. It's to believe God's not a person. Things and concepts that are actually more advanced than most people are using today. And then from there, these were extremophiles. These people went out into different places and they married Indians, and trackers would meet with other tribes. And so French Arcadians and, the Caribbean, there's so many examples of fusion being okay. And then all of a sudden they said, no more, we're going to ban it in America. I think it's Anthony Johnson is an African-American. He's an African from Uganda or something. He was taken to America as a slave or an indentured servant, because there weren't slaves at this point. He was turned into an indentured servant who paid off himself and bought some other slaves. And then he had a slave, an indentured servant that he didn't want to return. And that was the first indentured servant to receive a life of indentured servitude in America. So there was the beginning of indentured servitude then. And so Anthony Johnson was like, no one really looks into Anthony Johnson, but again, he was a very prominent, powerful Black landowner in Virginia whose wives and family, they were treated equal. And there were a number of circumstances like that. But all of a sudden there's a power struggle and they start to diffuse it.
Interesting.
Well, what's so important about this topic, and at least to me, and why I love having you here all the time, Andreas, thank you for joining us again, is we learn about a side of history that just isn't in the mainstream propaganda. They don't want us knowing, how much navigation there was in the age of exploration and what exactly was going on. They want us to have this simplified Pinta, Santa Maria, Columbus story, and it was all as simple as that, and then the Jamestown colony, and that's it. When you really understand the level of advanced cultures that were not only here but all over the planet. I mean, just in this book that you mentioned, I flipped to that page where they talk about Tartaria, and it says, "You shall understand that about 3,000 years ago, or somewhat more, the navigation of the world was greater than at this day." So this is them in 1700s saying that 3,000 years ago they were better at navigating than we were.
1600s. So,
right.
Yeah.
1600s. So do not think with yourself that I know not how much it has increased with you within these 60 years, whatever. Back to the more interesting stuff. It says the Phoenicians and especially the Tyrians had great fleets. So had the Carthaginians, their colony, which is yet further west towards the east. The shipping of Egypt and of Palestina was likewise great. China also, and the great Atlantis that you call America, which have now but junks and canoes, abounded then in tall ships. This island had then 1,500 strong ships of great content. Of all of this, there is with you sparing memory or none, but we have large knowledge thereof. So they're basically kind of saying you guys forgot all about this time in America when there's a lot more going on than just Native Americans running around, with teepees.
I got a question for Andreas. We know, right, the original Atlantis, the one that Plato talked about, that he got it from his uncle Solon, and supposedly Solon got it from the Egyptians. And there's also the conspiracy theory that the Phoenicians were actually the ones that kickstarted, right? It's linked to the whole Tartaria thing. I forgot what my question was, but yes. The Phoenicians were supposed to be the ones that kickstarted everything, right? And then from there, supposedly, the Jesuits got involved, something or other, and then through the use of black magic, they were able to change history. And right, you have the scrolls where they changed the J to an I or some shit like that, or to a 1. Can you touch on that? Because I find that part of it all interesting, where they push time, I believe, 1,000 years forward. So everything that happened far more recent than we think it did, right? Like the whole story of Jesus and all that stuff. Are you familiar at all with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a flamenco chronology, and there's also the phantom time hypothesis. Both are essential, and they connect to Francis Bacon and to George Washington. 1743 is the leap year that they have. And so you see 17 for the Earl of Oxford and 43 for Shakespeare, which appears over and over again.
Oh, shit.
There's a great video I have on that. I'll send you a link to it. If you go to Xirtus, you can find. But in 1743, the Gregorian calendar starts, and the Julian calendar doesn't synchronize until like 1923, which is why it mattered to flamenco to start looking into this. But essentially, a lot of people's birthdays are a month off, like, and death days. So Bacon's birthday is actually similar to George Washington's birthday. It's closer to February 18th, which is Yoko Ono and John Travolta and Dr. Dre's birthday as well. There's a number of weird synchronicities. But so
it's Dr. Dre's birthday?
Yeah, right. What? And mine. Yeah. But in 1981.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Dr. Dre's.
But in 1981, they found records from Edward de Vere, the Earl of Oxford, that prove that he had a love affair probably with the Queen, might have been the bastard son, and has this whole Oedipedian thing that he didn't know that he was the bastard son of the Queen, and ended up in a relationship with her, and then had another son who would have been the next Earl, but then was murdered. And so there's a whole other story there, and that Bacon was probably an illegitimate heir as well to the throne. But okay, so the thing with the Phoenicians, because this comes up, the reason also is you look at Pericles and the plays that they were interested in. The last play of Shakespeare is only halfway written by anybody's account, by him. And it's about a Tyrian prince. And Euclid's important to the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons. And he's not a Greek mathematician, he's a Tyrian mathematician. And what a Phoenician is also an interesting idea, because it'd be like saying a European, you know, because at some point, someone from the city of Tyre, or the city-state of Tyre, which was like an Atlantis at one point, and you start to realize, hey, Herodotus talked about this too. There's a bunch of examples in Mauritania, in Spain, in Portugal, in places that Portugal was conquered by and ended up conquering once Portugal became in charge after the reset in so many circumstances. Look at Spain controlling Taiwan. It was Spanish Formosa because it was Arabic Formosa, but then it became Dutch Formosa because the Spanish lost control of the Dutch, and then it became, independent trading colonies. So we lose sight of these ideas, but Tyrians, that was a major city, and Euclid came from Tyre, and that's where so much of the math behind the civilization geometry was used to build these 23-mile ring city systems. And also the idea of a ring is a misliteration of the hypersurface. So if you look at the idea of hyperbolic geometry, these have to do with resonance, and that's why you start to find these star forts, right? And so bastion forts are these snowflake-like forts that have rings when you're down low, but when you start to look at them from a larger, like if you're in Denmark and you see the Mario Brothers like star fort looking everywhere, these have these rivers that path around them. They generate energy from the water moving through them, and you can find them everywhere. So the beginning, I guess the takeaway is that Tartaria was a series of Atlantis. It wasn't just one Atlantis here or there, that just the rest of the world was this brave new world desert or something, and eventually people took over and took the scraps of each city-state that was left as much as they could, after the major reset and disaster. I don't know if that answered your question. Oh, wait, sorry. So then you talk about the phantom time hypothesis. That was a setup for the actual question. So the phantom time hypothesis is that in 1720s, there was 300 years that were added to the calendar. And then because 1000 looked better, the idea of in the year of our Lord, the pseudo-Isidorian decrees, 1666, they burned the London, and the beginning of new post libertine London, and also most of Amsterdam, because the 80-year war, you've had iconoclasm and you forgot everything. They just start telling everybody that it's 1,000 years later, but it's really like 400 years later. And then they say, oh, well, this happened and this happened so long ago that you don't even have to worry about it. But then they'll say, hey, this king or this god was really a saint, and this saint was part of this line. And then they'll use this line of, this king was born here and he died then, this is his birthday, but this is his son's birthday and death day and his son, and you'll have 10 kings' birthdays and death days. Then you'll go some other place and you'll see in another historical account the same birthdays and death days of 10 other kings that go in a line, and you'll start saying, wait, these are they're the same story. They just chronologically erased everything they can about European history. And it's beautiful in its evil madness, because if you were to just erase history and you were to find it again, it'd be really easy to pick it up. But if it's just shredded and it's mixed up into Catholicism, it becomes really convoluted and hard to figure out where it starts and ends, and becomes the original religion. So the historical timeline was kind of in 1923, the Soviets started realizing that there was some discrepancies. By the 40s, Anton.
Let me cut you off. Give me 1 second. Mark is calling me. I think something happened with his connection.
Oh, brutal. Glad you're recording.
Yo, what's up, Mark? Send you an invite. You can't come in with the same. Let me write this.
Brutal.
Time down so I can edit this out.
Technology, brother.
Let's see here. Participants. How do I do this? Invite. Copy invite link. I'm going to send it to you right now so you can jump in. I'm about to drop some fucking fire right now. I just sent it to you. Did you get it? All right. Yeah, he got disconnected. I don't know what happened with his connection, but we'll wait for him.
It was that good, man. They just don't want the people to know. They knew, like, if I was about to get into Anatoly Fomenko, they're like, uh-oh. That's when they're going to find out about Jay's.
Yeah, I want to get your take on, there he is. All right, that's 20. Are you good, Mark?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Can I jump? So Anatoly Timovich Fomenko, born in like 1945, grows up in Stalinite Soviet Union, which is they're taking everybody from Tatarstan, and literally Tatarstan is now a state in the Russian Federation, and they're putting them in gulags. Anyone who has a kulak background, who has any generational knowledge of what happened before. And so this guy has to look through the discrepancies of history, and he starts realizing, hey, there's another line of history that is inside of this. It looks like more like 1,000 years ago. Maybe then we need to reevaluate everything. And I think also he graduated in he was like 1960s guy. So 1967, 69 was wild and crazy guys, even in the Soviet Union. So he was looking into it and said, hey, there's this other history. We need to start to exemplify what happened before the Romanov family usurped the throne, because before the Romanov family usurped the throne, before Ivan the Terrible, there's another Russian line that was in charge of the state, and also Ukraine, because Ukraine is apparently the cradle of civilization is not Sumer, it's in the Ukraine. And there are examples of monuments and rocks that predate anything that we have in Baalbek, anything that we have in Sumer. There was the Gradisnitsa tablets, which were the Tartarian tablets we found in Bulgaria. But in terms of architecture, Ukraine is for the win. So that again is where the Tartars originally were from. The story of the J's and the I's, you look at, this from Indiana Jones. In the Latin, Jesus begins with an I. The I letter being put in the front of so many buildings with this giant swirled J. Eventually we started looking at buildings that say the same thing, but they say 1800 or 1300. And some of these buildings are very old. So not all of the buildings are like this. There are circumstances where this is not the case. But there are by the 1800s, rather, there are some buildings made in the 1800s that say 1800. But there's also buildings from the 8th century, during you go to Spain and you'll see buildings built that use Arabic numerals even, and they're using a J before the writing. And this is significant because instead of using Roman numerals, they're using Arabic numerals because they're part of the Cordoba Caliphate. So if they're connected to Khazaria and they're using that writing system, it immediately shows that they were part of this other civilization. They weren't part of this Roman. It's very strange. The Roman civilization would even use Roman numerals. And it's something that people talk about a lot, that Romans were stealing other people's civilizations after they were falling apart. So it's as if to say at one point there's a paleo, and I don't want to call it Christian or Muslim because it's a civilization that has different kinds of people doing whatever. But the ideas we have in Islam today, from the arabesque, the star, the shapes of the geometry, all these cool buildings, that was a Tartarian design. So you start seeing architecture that's built in the 8th century. And the idea that Jesus was probably only 1,000 years ago. So we hear the idea of Jesus being 2,000 years ago. And how crazy would that be if Jesus was 1,000 years ago? It's actually not that big of a deal. But imagine it, if it was Jesus 300 years ago versus 1,300 years ago. All of a sudden, the impact and where it happened and what it was like and how close it is and how relevant it is to you changes. And so it's easier to transmute the religion into a system of control. And so we start to see that happen with the use of the phantom time hypothesis to stretch out history.
That was the whole thing with Constantinople and the Council of Nicaea. They wanted to be able to, if they had divine right to rule the people, they could use religion as some sort of thing to assert their power. And everything
Now,
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, Juan. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I
thought
thought you were finishing.
I wanted to talk about what you're saying about chronology. Joseph Scaliger, right? Scaliger in chronology is the guy who is in charge of the guy who made up the AD and BC system that we know as today. And what people don't realize, right? You're going deep on a lot of shit, right? That I don't really know about. But the whole core of the thing is that time that we know of today is a construct of people back then, history, his story. So they told everything what you're saying. It makes a psychological impact on people if they go, okay, well, it was 1,000 years ago. Well, it's actually 300, but we're just going to put a one in front of that. So it's more,
And that's why I'm glad, not to take it away from this topic, because we have touched on this a couple times on the shows that Andreas and I have done, the whole, missing timeline hypothesis, but I think when you understand that time possibly was manipulated that way, you can understand how they would have had maybe this pre-knowledge of a place like America, what was really going on here, and then set up this whole new Atlantis story to get all of these, I don't know, frankly speaking, cult-like groups
Secret
here
societies,
in the colonies, and of course secret societies, but really like the public groups were pretty culty. They all had their own individual beliefs, and yeah, I'm wondering, where this fits in, because I know we wanted
that's
to talk
exactly
about Atlantis.
that. So what's weird to me, and I felt like it was weird when I was making my video about Baconianism and the American expansion, is that it really is about the occult. I mean, he champions science so much, but it's so strange how much of it is we're going to allow for people to stop being burnt. And he's living in a time where the Spanish Inquisition is happening and witch burning is happening. So you have to understand there is also some provocation to why he wants a society where people, like, they just killed Charles. His son was living in Holland. He was just smoking pot. He was relaxing. He had his mistresses, and they begged him to come back because Cromwell
Sounds great, man.
Why? And he left. He left because of his duty. Like the King of England, Charles II, wasn't that bad. Like the fact that he felt like he had to be king.
He was a hippie.
He was kind of it. Well, he was.
Man, shut the fuck up.
He was a long-haired guy who was into science, and he was relaxed.
Mark?
And he kind of reminds me of Mark. Mark, you could have been King Charles II. And it was a libertine period. It was pretty based. But there were problems there because the royal family had been pushed out because they thought, hey, a royal having authority, that's terrible. But then they put in a democracy, and the Puritans started killing everybody and not letting them do anything. So they said, hey, how about we just let you be king? We give you all the authority, and you just promise to defend our self-determination and let us drink on Sundays. And that worked out in a lot of ways. So the people that escaped from that weren't just the Puritans like we hear about. A lot of them were people in Lytle who came with, and the Mayflower had the first murder. There was a kid who blew up, he almost blew up the ship on the way here because he wasn't a Puritan. There's a number of people involved with the company that were pretty wild. And I think Johann Kelpis is probably a good example. He came to America to establish a Pennsylvania Rosicrucian colony. Johann Kelpis was all about New Atlantis, and so the thing is, they didn't get killed. So many people talk about the Salem witch trials. That's and what's the better one? The year from Connecticut. What's the one that happened right before Salem? New Haven. The New Haven witch trials were before Salem, and it was brutal.
I think you might be. Yeah, maybe it was New Haven, but I know there was witch trials in Connecticut, but when you talk to
the New Haven witch trials, 1655.
Yeah, brutal. Killed
awesome.
like dozens of people for no good reason. Anyone just needed like a witness to,
right.
Take
They
them
were
out.
witches, bro.
Well, but and that's another thing. Like, so somebody has a greenhouse, they're committing magic, right? Like they're growing food in the wintertime.
The pagan.
So yeah, and so this was a thing for Isaac Newton.
Well,
Isaac Newton translated the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Like he was the most devout Volcel Christian that you could have, but he was still interested in science and craft. Magic might be a better word for copy protected or trade secrets, right?
Right. Well, and I think that's exactly what it is. It was like people who were getting persecuted for doing something that everyone was doing. It's just maybe they didn't like how they were doing it. And to bring up Johannes Kelpius, it's funny. I've actually visited the hermit's cave that Johannes Kelpius meditated in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. Anybody can go there. It's down in Wissahickon in this like public park. But yeah, it's definitely a strange energy there for sure. To get into that though, what else did you learn about these like Rosicrucian founders of Pennsylvania and whatnot? Because I know my buddy Michael Juan has done a lot of research on that, and I'd like to see what you found.
Actually, I'm just starting to begin my research on Pennsylvania. I hadn't really thought about Pennsylvania before Kevin Bacon, but then I started finding out about Footloose and how he literally came from a family that was anti-dancing, and I was like, oh, I guess that movie that's what I needed to make sense of Footloose.
We went from Kevin Bacon to Francis Bacon.
Yeah, it's
Well, I started with Francis Bacon, but then I realized like how connected all the Bacons were.
5 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
I'm the next Kevin Bacon. I saw that Thomas Jefferson's main man was a Bacon, and he protected his his Sally, and the stories he had about his wife, his colored family, as history show. George Washington similarly had a Bacon who was in charge of him. I think we earlier mentioned abolitionists worked with James Bacon. There are so many Bacons that are connected. So eventually I was like, oh, the Quakers came because of the Shaking Quakers, which was a lady who was she was almost burnt at the stake in England. And then she escaped to Pennsylvania and started the Shaking Quakers. So there's a lot about Pennsylvania and the German Dutch, because those are the people who escaped New Amsterdam. A lot of them went to Pennsylvania. So that some of the survivors of what was old Star Fort, New York, before it became New York, they're not going to exist anymore, but their families might have something. So I'm very fascinated to find out about that more.
I got a question for you guys. If story, goes as it is in the history books at school, right? 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, right? Pinta, Santa Maria, right? They landed Nova Scotia, let's say, maybe Boston area, kept going, Virginia, maybe whatever, right? But if Tartaria is a theory, right? Wouldn't there have been mad buildings like the whole way, like everywhere? Wouldn't all of them, quote unquote, Indians been like living in like mansions?
So so that's the funny thing with the mud flood and everything, is that we have volcanoes, earthquakes, and volcanoes launching things.
Right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
And this is the thing about manifest destiny. So anytime you find any of that stuff, you say you built it when you put it back together. And then you say that teepees were the mode when I think it's less than 20% of anybody would live in a nomadics weren't as common as people realize. I think it's much less of people living in teepees. There's all sorts of structures and infrastructure. But what you have is also, let's say that you're living in New York City and it's been built in the 1890s, but you're living in 2020, and then everything collapses. And not everyone knows how to rebuild New York City or keep it built or keep it running. So many of these things fall into disrepair and fall apart. Now, imagine you're a Californian after the reset. Your whole wireless, biodegradable, whatever civilization will not be there. So there's a lot to be said about that as well. But there are buildings.
It be there in California?
I'm just saying, if you have a wireless biodegradable society, you will not be able to see the wires, and it will biodegrade if there's anything there.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But there will also be giant, like you look at Taiwan, you look at Singapore, start looking at all these places in the 1890s, and you look at the 7-Year War, and I like to call it World War Zero, 1812. You hear about earthquakes in Venezuela, and you start looking for pictures. You're thinking to yourself, there wasn't anything there. There were millions of people living in not quite skyscrapers, but 13-story buildings were very common, and these things were knocked down with cannonballs the size of cars, right? So anything the infrastructure from the cotton gin on, and is actually in existence in Italy centuries earlier. It's just not Eli Whitney industrialized mass manufacture, but so much of this was Greco-Roman warfare. You'd launch something and you could destroy a city, and you would salt the area, and then it could be, and the other thing again is the mud flood. So much of this stuff is buried. You go to Italy, you will find, if you go when they're excavating, and I've seen this by accident. Like I went there hoping to get involved with some sort of archaeology, and I've done that as well. But the best stuff was just walking down the street. You see like a wall that's blocked, and they're building a new parking lot or a new tower, and they've dug it out, and you see, wait a second, there's a building right next to that building that's from 1,000 years ago. It's Roman, and it goes down underground 3 stories, but there are windows and doors for 3 layers, because those 3 stories used to be ground level. One time I'm in Rotterdam, I go down a street in this old German cobblestone, and I see you go down the stairs, and it opens up because there was a church that they just buried from the 13th century in the entire town after the plague. So a lot of the time there are these things, and it's not just in Europe, across Scandinavia. So I have a friend Dr. Fowler, who we should actually mark at some point. We're going to try to get him. He's just really busy because he works in Canada all the time. He's a professor working with LiDAR scanning, using drones to scan with LiDAR to look for remnants of lost star forts. Because the rainforests are gone, but you go to Canada and there's this grass has grown over them. You can't see them, but your robots can. And all of a sudden there's these snowflakes showing up. But he never heard of Tartaria. He's just like, what the heck are these snowflake forts? But they're all over Canada. And there's a lot more that you'll find in Greenland. We haven't even touched Antarctica.
When you say Canada, are you talking like eastern seaboard, or are you talking
sweeping across Canada? So there are forts in Newfoundland that are better maintained. I need to remember the story of Fort St. Anne and why this happened this way. I have to look this up again. But there was an effort by Prince George IV, maybe, was it? So Prince George, King George's son, the fourth son, he didn't like the Mediterranean. It was too warm. So he went to Canada and he loved it there. And he got pneumonia and died eventually. But before that happened,
that guy's a fucking idiot, bro. Nothing you need to listen to, nothing that comes out of that man's mouth.
Kind of a beast, to be honest. I don't know. But yeah, he died.
Shit I ever heard. Have you ever been there? It's paradise. Stupid.
I don't think he was breastfed. But the point is, eventually he died. And before he died, he'd arranged the fort to take over Canada. He wanted to make Canada into an independent sovereign state outside of the British Commonwealth, above the United States, tried to make a deal with the United States, and the United States tried to invade Canada, then the Canadians took it. So you could never take Canada as the rule, basically. And it has to do with this star fort. But that's one of the few star forts that remains because they rebuilt it. The rest of them are kind of buried, all the way to the west.
All right, I'm going to show my
I have a question, here. Andreas.
Until you get to Alaska.
Why is it that Tartaria is up there with like flat earth conspiracy? Why is it that they shit on? And then you have, right, flat earth, you don't really have that much evidence, but this stuff, right, there's a star fort off of one of the Florida Keys, and I was looking at it because it looked beautiful, right? And then I just so happened to be on YouTube and they brought it up. They're like, oh, this is a place where you can only get by boat. It's a national preserve or something like that here in Florida. And when I was looking at it before I had seen this video, I was like, man, that looks like a star. And I was telling my wife, I was like, I want to go there. It looks like a star fort, from Tartaria. Mind you, she doesn't give a shit about this. And then, of course, I was looking up a video and boom, there it is. It's like, this was a star fort, I'm like, holy shit, I was talking about going there because I lived in Homestead I have a house in Homestead. And we lived down there for a little bit. And I wanted to go there. I'm like, damn, this looks dope. And
Tartaria is the first racism that is universal. It's really interesting when you start hearing yourself and you're like, what in tarnation or tar baby and all of these really seriously racist things that come out of Tartaria.
What in tarnation? Only cartoons say that, bro.
Yeah, that's a good point. I started saying it again to bring it back.
Well, but we're talking.
It's only our word. You can't say it.
Chris, you got to put yourself in the mindset of somebody in like the 1930s, 40s.
Bro, I'm not Yosemite Sam, dude.
That's even the concept of getting tarred and feathered might be part of, like
right.
that.
I mean, it's true. All of this is kind of you're right though. It's disappeared to the point where your wife is saying, oh, that looks like a star fort, ha ha ha. Because at best, it's like a Gestalt image from Mario Brothers that's been made fun of. For me, when I first heard of Tartaria, and I grew up Slavic, so I already had Taurus Bulba and had heard of Tartars, but I hadn't heard Tartaria until I got to college. And then they had this paper that was very random, and it was in anthropology, and it said, hey, if you ever hear about Tartaria, be careful. And it was like 2012 or something like that. And it was just like, the vegetable lamb of Tartary was this thing that they believed in the Roman Renaissance period. The Tuscans thought that this land existed far east, and the Chinese thought it existed far west. And, they just didn't get that it was cotton, that this bush of cotton was a vegetable sheep, and that you just don't understand Tartaria. And just don't ever look into it and go back to sleep. Take the blue pill. Yeah. And I never bothered with Tartaria.
You were warned in a paper form to not look into Tartaria.
That's how academic I was.
Well, Chris,
they warn you not to go into the forbidden section.
Well, Chris, what they do is they give you this like half truth, like, oh yeah, they talked about these vegetable sheep. That's hilarious. Who could ever imagine a sheep that's also a vegetable? But then you consider what cotton is, and you're like, oh wow, that is kind of like a plant that creates wool like a sheep. So,
Sure.
and they, you know, academically, they'll make those sort of jaunts at certain topics so that, you know, unwitting students don't go and make a thesis statement that might inspire their fellow students to, you know, question their teacher, you know, or whatever it is.
There's also weird plants that they've forgotten, like walking bushes, and there's carnivorous plants all over the world. And there's all sorts of things that have been killed off. You tell a kid about a rhino in 20 years, he's going to think you made it up. So much of the fantastical history of the world is gone.
They had the elephants, right? The huge elephants with like
dinosaurs are dragons,
unicorns and all
birds.
That shit.
Yeah, how many big birds are gone that you could think of? Like the moa is 16 feet tall, the giant eagle. I forget what ran across the Andes, that weird thing. You know, but there's all these crazy birds that were basically dinosaurs, and now we're told, oh, that's crazy. That was a dragon. Why? Who would believe that? That's a crazy story. So I mean, Tartaria has that same air to it. I'd also say, you know, and the most impulsive answer I think for us is it's true. That's why they don't want to talk about it, and why they laugh about it, and they have to continue to laugh about it because it is spreading. The knowledge is becoming more and more important. And look at who it hurts. Who does it matter to? Well, very important high figures of aristocracy who have multi-generational wealth since the retelling of this story that they've stolen are now coming into question. It could completely change the playing field. And also Eurocentricity had been basically used and forgotten, but now we're at this point where people go back and say, oh, wait a second, is it really true that Europeans were so much the apex of everything, and that these other people had no idea what they were doing and thanked the Europeans when they came with the wheel? I mean, it just doesn't work in almost any circumstance anymore.
Go ahead, Chris.
Can you see my brains leaking out of my ears?
Well, here,
right.
It's funny because I was talking about Tartaria. You know, I had never ever had anybody on who knows, right? This is why I love being here with you guys right now, because I somebody who actually knows about fucking Tartaria, because I've looked into it and I've brought it up to like different guests, and I'm like, hey, you ever heard of Tartaria? And one of the guys was like, Tartary? I'm like, no. Tartaria. He's like, the underworld Tartaria? I'm like, no, not that one. But it is crazy, right? That
you just did it again, though. Beyond tar and feathered in the Roman period, Tartarus was death.
Yes, exactly. So. The underworld, exactly. So when a conspiracy theory like this, I can get behind 100%, but then it's so shit on, right? Like flat Earth, right? The moon.
But who does flat Earth hurt also? So NASA doesn't want people talking about how they're lying about stuff. So anytime they bring up something that might accidentally show some truth, they're going to laugh at it and say it's flat Earth.
Are we team flat Earth?
No, bro.
I mean, I'm team NASA is full of
I'm
government
team
information.
NASA's full of shit.
Okay,
too. I don't think we're taking.
I mean,
they're full of shit, but what proof do you have? What proof do you have that it's flat?
I mean, okay, so I don't want to do this like right now, but let's just say the interesting thing to me about internet researchers are the researchers that are focusing on empirical observations they're making themselves, rather than assumptions from pictures they're getting from the government or from a corporation. And I think that is an interesting thing. And a number of facts have been found that have, disproven mistruths put on Google Maps. That's more important to me right now than the final answer. I think that teleologically we'll get to a point where we find that there's definitely more to the story in a lot of ways, in terms of Antarctica, in terms of other land masses, in terms of islands that have been hidden and have been, there's a lot else.
Chris,
more
it's all right, present. Brother. I know you're still stuck to the system in some ways, but we're trying to free your mind, dude. Maybe you'll be Illuminati confirmed by the end of this
Illuminati
show.
confirmed.
Chris, I'm sorry, Chris, you should do it. Tell me where you're at with that.
With what exactly?
You're talking about the heliocentricity model and
flat Earth,
hyperbolic geometry.
Oh, where am I at? Where am I at with that?
I didn't use the word, but yeah.
Shoot your shot, Chris.
Well, I've been on airplanes about 35,000 foot. The shit looks kind of flat, but it seems like if it was a big enough ball, it would look flat. So I'm gonna have to stick with like Galileo and all the smart people that come before me, because that's the world that we live in. I don't go apart picking a helicopter into 1,000 pieces either. I just trust that man knows how to fix it and that man knows how to fly it. So
I'm team Hollow Earth.
In terms of I'm Hollow Earth all the way. Hey, remember Vice? In My Own World March 15th, I have a show about Hollow Earth that's coming out that you should see.
On Vice?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's going to be great. But in terms of the world's shape, now think about the electric universe theory and quantum entanglement and the idea that there's holographic, Michael Albert talks about the holographic universe. Now think about resonance. And so you're a resonance pattern, right? In a density, but you're a holographic density. So everything is flat, but everything can be experienced as hyperboreal or Mobius is, beyond, hyperbolic. So we could be making ourselves experience the world one way or another based on mass consciousness and technology using microwaves.
Emanationism. I'm an emanationist. I believe that we radiate our reality outward, and that's what we create. So I'm 100% on board with you. I love that.
Let's get back to what we were talking about before Flat Earth derailed, because I might be mistaken here, but I don't think Andreas was bringing up Flat Earth as a citation of his beliefs. It was
not
merely
at all.
an example he was using.
I just like the point that people laugh at people that are looking through research, and they point to the most ridiculous possible thing and mock that as much as possible. And it's really interesting on another hand for us, because you can say, I think I was like 15. I found out something wasn't true. I don't even remember what the first one that made me say, wait a second. Well, then maybe I think it was the MOSFET semiconductor came out 9 months after 1947, right? In Roswell. And so I was thinking to myself, well, hey, maybe if there's something there, what are the other ones? Oh, the Kennedy thing. Oh, they're always laughing. I never even remember, who's this president from before I was born? Oh, there's this whole, if you think about him with tinfoil hats, what's tinfoil about? So you start looking and you're like, hey, there is a milieu of truth that's described by these absurd concepts. I mean, how many Prussians wore tin helmets? All of them. So, I think at the end of the day, Sasquatch even, I think, is the most absurd. Cryptozoology. Hey, there's a lot of evidence of alternative hominids that have existed, and that's becoming more and more precedentally important when we look into the junk DNA.
Is Bigfoot Tartarian? Is Sasquatch Tartarian?
So a big thing about Tartaria is the idea of multiple hominids existing, including giants, dwarves and giants as well. And when we say that, there's, the Smithsonian talked about giants that were more furry and had extra molars and were a little bit different than us, kind of the predator alien Prometheus. There's different kinds of humans that have different purposes. There are giant buildings that are too big.
The doorways are huge. They're in Kuyu, right? You mentioned the Byzantine era earlier. They built this to get away from the Muslims or the Arabs, and they built these underground cities in like 5 years, and it's like all these tunnels, and they're huge and they're fucking ginormous. Like have you seen Mark? You know how tall Mark is? He's who knows? He might be Tartarian.
Well, and so then that's the other thing, is the idea that, Genesis and a number of books talk about the Nephilim, or different kind, and at very least different kinds of hominids that can have gene flow. And that's a fascinating idea. Like, I don't know if we talked about this, but like, you look at horses and donkeys, they make mules because they don't have. That's how tall he is. He crops himself. That's how tall he is.
So check this out. Let me connect some stuff. Okay, I want to connect some things here, right, and related to the elites, right, to keep it on par with the show. Now, we talked about Francis Bacon potentially being the editor of the King James Version of the Bible. I've also heard, and I want to get your opinion on later on, about the evidence, if you found any, the correlation between Francis Bacon and Shakespeare both being the same person, if Shakespeare even existed. Now, if we know...
He was saying it was more complicated than just that. I think we did kind of touch on that briefly, but can we go back to that? Because I would love to.
I'll just I can explain though that Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, was a playwright himself, and a number of his works were incorporated. There are probably a team of 20 or so, and so he also lost his fortune. It was completely squandered in a way by the Cecil House, but at the same time, he had all these great tutors who came from Italy and from all over, and they gave him all these books, and he learned, and he created revisionized plays, which were translations a lot of the time of this Latin work. And Francis Bacon called himself Francus Latinus or something. He had a number of titles because he was really interested in Latin. He was Lord Verulam, and he was the Saint of Alban, but he was Viscount of St. Alban, but he was also a high translator. So you had a team kind of like 20 or so ghostwriters that were pupilled students under him as well, that were involved in this creation of this document, which is several things. It's an art piece that's supposed to be too surreptitious. It has to be useful for another level for the kingdom. And 3, there's a cryptogram inside of that. So the way it's stacked, I mean, there are places where there's an entire section, a paragraph there, just to make sure that this word is on this page for numerological purposes. And you might think that's crazy, but John Dee didn't. And so, Francis Bacon and John Dee were buddies, and Edward de Vere learned his symbol from tutelage under John Dee and created his symbol from John Dee. And numerology was, John Dee's favorite thing. So he convinced so many of these Rosicrucians, hey, for instance, the number 53. Why is 53 important? Well, because there's an angle in a triangle, the isosceles triangle between 4 or 5. Pythagoras and Euclid. And again, Euclid being from Phoenician Tyr. So they knew these things. They made these plays about Tyr, about these things, because these were the original stories that he's like, hey, these are the stories I heard as a kid because I'm a multi-generationally rich nobleman from this, and I can present this to the people in such a way that affects modern politics. And it's not just, I like what you said, not a writer, an editor, because I think Bacon was more of the editor. Mm-hmm. You can see he has prose, he has style, but De Vere is a way better writer. And Ben Jonson's the best writer.
Who was the guy that was paired up with John Dee for the Enochian magic? What was his name? Do you know?
Oh, the dude who wife swapped with?
Yeah, they were cucking each other. I don't know, but you know who I'm talking about, right?
Eliphas Levi?
No, not Eliphas Levi. It was somebody else. So
if you type John Dee wife swapping, it'll be the first thing that comes up.
Listen. I want to bring forth this idea because, right, we're talking about Tartaria. We're talking about how these elites, they morph and they put their symbolism into different works, right? Such as William Shakespeare's plays, the Rosicrucians putting hidden symbols in the Bible. We know René Descartes was also a part of the Rosicrucians, the Cartesian coordinate system, which we use today, because they were obsessed with finding and interpreting their ideas into geometric forms. That's what they were all about the Platonic solids. Now,
Kelly,
there we go, it was Kelly. If these guys, right, if they edited, right, these Rosicrucians and they're connected to Tartaria, what if the Bible is just a story? Because we mentioned the Nephilim, the Elohim, all this stuff, and all these, right? You have these places of higher consciousness, Shambhala, the Garden of Eden, the New Atlantis. Do you think that the story behind the Bible is like an reinterpretation of what these guys were seeing, or like it actually really fucking happened? Like, was Jesus
the Bible's way more based than, in certain ways than people realize, and those are the best. I would use those as its defense before I tear it apart, because that's the next thing we have to do, is we have to tear it apart and show how, yes, it's being used to manipulate people. Yep. But at the beginning, you have Pope Gregory the 13th, and he's basically put in charge because the Borgias and the Machiavellian struggle of Rome, we can't just keep putting princes in charge of stuff. Let's get a Croatian guy who's removed from Rome, and we'll have him be the Pope. And so it was kind of a good idea because he wasn't involved with politics as much. He's a little Asperger's, and he was obsessed with reading. And so he said, hey, the Bible. What is the Bible? We talk about the holy word. We talk about the good news that is the gospel. Let's take this Tertullian. Tertullian was a philosopher in the 2nd century, or, he decided what things were Gnostic and which things could be used in Christianity. Let's start to look at these books that I have, Pope Gregory, and I think these are my favorite. I'm going to call this, my Bible.
The canon.
You could make but you can make your own. I'm not saying that this is canonical like Star Wars. There could be Elseworld series and stuff like that, but you also have to remember, like, some of the Bible is not about, it's a historical book to a person who's thinking this is history, because at this time all you have are the accounts of people who've been through things. So part of the Bible, like Leviticus, isn't saying, hey, you should do what Leviticus says. It says this is a point in history where people were selling their daughters, and that this is what happened. It's not saying you should trade your daughter's virginity for 40 shekels. That's, so there's a context thing there. Then you also have the Geneva Bible. And so the Geneva Bible is this beginning idea of translating so that they can have some way of saying, well, it does say this or it doesn't say that, to their authorities, and checking a level of metric there. But when you look at the King James Bible, you have Tobit, you have, I think there's 9 other books that aren't included later in the
Book of
Lutheran
Enoch,
Bible.
yeah.
And then you have the idea of Genesis being 5 other books that had been abridged, and you have the books of the Book of Enoch 1 and 2, and you have the Book of Moses, you have the Book of Creation, you have another book about the flood that's missing, and some of them start saying, well, we don't know anymore which is true. And this is fair, because at the time you have people that said Jesus was a guy with a donkey head, because one
Baphomet?
mistranslation of him walking in on the donkey into Jerusalem, someone mistranslated that, and so the Romans said, he's so 200 years after Christ, you have Roman statues of this crucified Baphomet, and people don't I feel like no one's put that together yet. That's a good one to look into more too. And then people say, Baphomet didn't happen until they started the Spanish Inquisition and asked these guys to bullocks. They have examples of Baphomet going back to the mythical period. What? So,
the Minotaur. I mean, all these the harpies, these chimeras, again, from the book of Genesis, from the Elohim and the Nephilim coming down and fucking, that's how you get the demigods and all this stuff. So yeah, that's fucking wild to not know that about what you just said. That is the craziest thing ever. And
so then Christianity starts to develop and become more famous and popular. And you have to remember the flamenco timeline also. So 700 and 1700. I mean, it starts to think about Islam completely differently, right? Because Islam starts to emerge at the way we look at Islam today is a new kind of Islam, whereas the word Islam itself was used by a number of people that were disenfranchised from the church at one point. They weren't Jewish, they weren't Muslim, they weren't Christians. They were someone who was almost kind of more open-ended originally. And then sometime in the 14th century, you start to see more and more examples of didacticism. But that's the same as the Constantinian period, where they're killing people to force them to assimilate into this new homogenized religion. If you look at some of the books that made into the Quran and into the Islamic faith, there's pretty compelling evidence that Muhammad had Catholic books given to him to build Islam. So Islam was also created in a sense to unify the other side and make it easier by them killing and beheading people that they couldn't behead and kill.
Bro,
so
Muhammad had red hair.
And Muhammad had red hair. Genghis Khan had red hair.
And all those guys.
Green eyes. Yeah.
Weird.
Which is, they're not allowed to know. They have to wear the red turban to hide. Yeah.
Weird.
There's cytomelanin, right? There's a thing about that too. It's supposed to be special.
That is fucking crazy. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it's definitely, you guys are joking about my height, but when we talk about all the things we're talking about, I have a connection to Pennsylvania in my ancestry through people who immigrated from Germany. So maybe that's why I'm so fascinated with all this stuff. There's some kind of connection there. But yeah, I am tall and I do have red hair. So who knows? Maybe I'm the great grandson of a Tartarian giant.
Is that why you're pushing the show so much?
There are dwarves though too. So I made a video once, Iridium Dwarves, and it talks all about how there's this iridium layer on the planet, and this idea that everyone has these stories about underground little people that were living all over the place after the reset. And so there are a number of, and this is big in mainstream science's metaphor, we evolved from these little people, the little creature mammals that were smaller, that were underground, and they came out. So but there's clearly the story also on the other side of the giants mixing with them. So we have all those. I did want to say that with the Bible. So when you look at the King James Bible, so much of it has numbers, verses, everything. The way it's put together, there are certain translations, like the Watchtower Society has added words like a God or with God. But I still think the King James Bible is relatively accurate. And the reason being that at the end of it, it says, if you were to manipulate and mess with the words of this, your suffering in hell is going to be the worst possible suffering.
That's
ever.
convenient.
And so it is convenient. So they're telling, and this is, let's be fair, they could just be telling you not to mess with what they messed with already, or they're saying to themselves, because they're superstitious. And it seems from our understanding of the 1600s that these were very superstitious people that believed that, this is Lucifer thinking they're more right than God. They're trying to do good. The road to hell is paved with their good intentions. So they're thinking, hey, I have to present to the public the truth. And the truth is in here. But I'll obscure it by teaching them lies about what it means. So, for instance, Damascus, and you look at Syria, and you start to look at what Syria was like in 1,000 years ago, and you imagine Jesus with a sword instead of on the back of a donkey, and what Luke says about bringing justice with a sword, not here to bring peace. And the idea that Jesus or Yeshua, right, was a soldier in the Middle Ages is a very different kind of story, and that wasn't a story about peace necessarily, but maybe about defending your Camelot, your King Arthur land. So the Bible it has all the truth, the names of the right places, the interactions of people. But it's so unlikely that anyone is going to read it for that context, because we've built this infrastructure around misinterpreting the religion. And that's in Revelation. It says, hey, there's going to be these goats that build temples, and the shepherd's not going to have anything to do with them.
That's how you get the Dark Ages, though, when people were taking religion too seriously, word for word. Now, let me hit you with this. Are you familiar at all with King James' demonology work? Have you ever heard of that book? He was a witch sympathizer. He was talking about werewolves, vampires, black magic, and this work was used by William Shakespeare in his production of Macbeth. And a lot of the rituals found in the book, he put in a lot of his plays and stuff. Again, this is a guy behind the King James version of the fucking Bible, talking about demons and how demons only help further the glorification of God. What the fuck does that even mean, right? And again,
but again, those are going to be, well, okay. So first off, Solomon built the temple with the help of demons, right? The demons had to lift it. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about genies and jinn and Disney, there's a lot there to the powers outside of humanity being harnessed by man, but man loses his mind when he stops revering the source, which is Islam has to do with that. This idea of being yoked in yoga with a submission, the original version of the
like
term,
Kundalini type of thing, right? Like
which the serpent and the serpent energy. I mean, it's all there. But so with demonology, John Dee was huge into demonology. The septagram is on every single police badge for the reason that it's trapping demons. Whoa. The 7-pointed star holds the 6.
What the fuck?
The 6 is as above, so below. As above, so below comes from both the Thoth tablet, emerald tablet of Hermes, and in Euclid. I think the earliest of Euclid's elements, he says everything that is above is as it is below, and energies are exchanged. So the math, the science, the septagrams, the Eye of Solomon, and the idea of studying what Solomon did, because Solomon was the most wise, and James was like, he was a bisexual theater guy.
He was a sodomite.
He was a little interested in the arts and a lot of other things, and he had people around him that made more decisions than he necessarily made all the time. I'm not saying he wasn't complicit, but a lot of the royal family weren't. It was the next few generations that were even more complicit. However, he was a Freemason. He was part of the Freemasons. He did make it possible for the Scotch lodges to become the Grand London Lodge and welcome in the first Brits. But I think in general, the demonology was I think we said this earlier, magic can be science. And this was a time when they're thinking to themselves, whoa, all of these things, like, I think this is an enchanted rock, right? Like that's all this is.
Yeah, it's a scrying mirror, like John Dee.
Scrying mirror with an enchanted rock in it. So with crystals. So they at some point they figured that out, and they had records of Tartarian technology that used crystals. Crystal radio was already well understood by the 13th century. What's his name? The Arabic.
And also, have you made a video on the fireplaces, bro? The huge fucking fire.
Before we leave that last topic, though, I just want to read this because I just read this last night, and it's a quote from an author you might be familiar with, Andreas. But he says, "It is one of the most profound ironies of the history of thought that the growth of mechanical science, through which arose the idea of mechanism as a possible philosophy of nature, was itself an outcome of the Renaissance magical tradition. Mechanism divested of magic became the philosophy which was to oust Renaissance animism and to replace the conjurer by the mechanical philosopher."
Yeah,
and what he's talking about is how all this magical sort of cult secret society activity gave way to a lot of the industrial scientific action that we, characterized the early 19th century with.
Oh,
Or
Renee-
Yeah, but I think we also have to be, we'd be very careful about being so Eurocentric in the perspective, because the Dark Ages didn't exist. The Dark Ages were just, the period when the Islamic age was the brightest, right? And the Renaissance is the period when the brightest age in history recently went dim. So you have all of a sudden, we talk about Renaissance philosophers, but even like I was saying earlier, Ibn al-Haytham, like Ibn al-Haytham is the inventor of so many technologies at the Renaissance. British, German, Italian scholars, they're all getting their research from the Arabs, and it's just a continuation of the research. But all of a sudden, they're not able to continue that research because there's military suppression in Persia and in those areas. So the research starts to make its way into parts of Europe where it can be scholastically accepted. So, so much of that work, it's the other thing is it's not mechanical in the same way. We think about alchemy and how like Isaac Newton looked at alchemy, and it was a very like idea of metal fermentation. Like you could grow metal, so sulfur and minerals would then allow it to be under pressure and heats. And we have to understand how volcanoes and underground conditions work, but then we'll be able to grow gold. And this is because that was the idea of Arabic alchemy. And so there was a even in that philosophy, this idea that biology and geology and noosphere, mind and technology are all interconnected was already very common. Then they're thinking about, again, the jinns, this idea that there are spirits held in devices and animism. They're mechanized. The Turkish chess player, right? Like there's all of these ideas that are already, Sufism is becoming a popular idea then. So it's more that someone says to themselves, we could take this and mass manufacture it. And someone says, why would you do that? And they say, well, right now I own these people, but these people are just cavemen. If I made them into doctors, scientists, and lawyers and engineers, I would own more power, right? And so let's educate a Masonic generation of foundlings. We'll make them wear Egyptian cotton. We'll make them wear a white tunic. We'll have them wear denim, Egyptian priest denim, and we'll have them raised to learn how to facilitate this new world order.
And we're going to call them philosophers.
Yeah, philosopher king state, right?
Yes.
Lovers of Sophia, Phila Sophia, lovers of Sophia.
And Rene Descartes was about that, Mark, about the mechanistic universe. He had this mechanistic universe theory that Isaac Newton came back later and was like, no. The world isn't mechanistic. It's just run by forces that we can't even fucking begin to comprehend.
The world's a vampire, I think Isaac Newton said.
Yeah, some shit like that. But Isaac Newton, right? Him being like this person, right? All these scholarly people all throughout history. Leibniz, right? It's like Gottfried Leibniz, or the original inventor of like binary code. He was about that. He was about the law of attraction and how our words and our thoughts could affect reality. This is a guy who invented binary system. The guy who invented the modern day computer, Charles Babbage, tried to summon the devil. They were trying to, again, how the ancients were trying to show that the existence of God through technology, or through alchemy or through whatever, they were trying to do the same thing through technology, right? Like all these guys, they were all Rosicrucians, and that's what they were all about at the end of the day, which is fucking mind-blowing to me because a lot of people don't even know that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I don't know. Andreas, is there anything you left off the table? I know there was something about the Masonic year that you had mentioned in the notes you sent me ahead of time. And I think you might have touched on that a little bit when we talked about like the calendar manipulation and whatnot. But yeah, you were talking about how they raised this generation of Masonic foundlings. And yeah, you see that not only with just the clothing, but with the culture itself. I mean, in music, in, the proliferation of psychedelic drugs, which were very much a part of a lot of those ancient cults. Yeah, we're seeing the byproduct of that now in hindsight, but we got to have you back on to talk about something that I know you know a lot about, the Church of the Subgenius. It came up kind of randomly when we were talking to Ryan Burns, and yeah, I actually got in touch with Ivan Stang, one of the founders of the Church of the Subgenius. I don't know if you recommend.
I'm really happy to talk to Stang. You let him know I'm the free incarnation of Bob. I'm happy to talk.
Fucking
Of
Will
Bob.
do.
Bob. He said Bob, bro.
I'm the free incarnation of
Well,
Bob,
maybe
and
I'll
stand
have
by
you.
that.
Maybe I'll have you on when we interview Ivan Stang, because I definitely want to get in touch with him. But his message was a little interesting. People should.
I want to hear it. Oh,
Yeah,
Sign
we'll
up for
tell
the
you
Patreon.
after. We'll tell you off the air, but yeah, sign
I
up
do
for the
have
Patreon.
the Subgenius Illuminati expansion pack,
Right.
and yeah, I mean, I went to Bob's funeral, Robert Anton Wilson's. So I always want to talk to anybody who's involved with Subgenius. So
Chris is like looking for the eject button that he was talking
He's
about.
like, "Oh
before.
my
Looking
gosh.
for the joint, man.
Illuminati confirmed.
Chris is like, I'm out of here.
I was looking for the joint, bro. Like I need
This guy
spark
knows
up.
Bob.
Chris, you gotta just you just gotta write a book that makes money, that says how to make money on the title, and has a bunch of empty pages. That's all I gotta do. So
I love that, dude. I have the Pope certificate from Robert Anton Wilson. They're all like registered Pope, or whatever. You guys know about that?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, sick.
How are you only telling me that now? You're pretending like you didn't know anything about the Church of the
The waters
Subgenius.
run deep.
Illuminati
Silly.
confirmed.
Dude, you have a
Y'all
Pope
don't know.
ticket?
That was a
Y'all
poker
don't know.
face. A little bit of poker face.
I'm
Hey.
questionable
The thing
about
about
the
it is, man,
people around
everybody-
me right now.
Yo,
All right.
The thing about this is, man, these are interesting topics, man. End of the day, right? So very interesting topic. We can get lost in the weeds about this, that, or the other. Sometimes I need things in simple form, And so sometimes I gotta just sit back and try to digest. Yo, bro, you know a lot of names, bro. You know a lot of dates, bro. You know what I mean? I don't do that. I get the
Bro, don't even do it. It's a waste. Dude, you know what you should
Not
do?
at all.
Take that, smoke that, watch my bacon video. It has bass music, crazy visuals. It's a fun historical ride. I think it's
I
worth it.
Yeah, I
think we
really,
should
I
do
really
that right
appreciate
away.
you coming on and saying all this because it's super informative. It's like one of these things where I got to get stoned. I got to like go back and listen to it a few times because you're really putting some threads together. Some wild topics, B, like very specific dates and specific characters, and relationships between those people, and this, I mean, it's like, yo, that's like Illuminati confirmed. You know what I mean?
Illuminati confirmed.
Well,
I appreciate that,
Tell
man.
us about where we can find the rest of your videos and everything else you got going on, and then also, you got this thing going on with Vice. Tell us a little bit about that. What's the date again?
Okay, so Vice, I did this episode of a show called In My Own World, and it has a bunch of weird ones they were supposed to do. I'm supposed to be the finale. The most of them are people that are like into. One guy looks at the stars and he's like trying to use radio telescopes. Another person's a time traveler or something, and they're crazy. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but mine is people that were this. Do you want to do a thing on Hollow Earth? Like, yeah, I guess I could. And so I had to introduce myself. We have a group of people that research all sorts of stuff. And so you want us to research Hollow Earth. Well, the idea that it's just solid beneath us doesn't make sense. So we started doing all this research, and we ended up doing a crazy trip to volcanoes. We went into flumes. We went underground in caves. I used LiDAR to scan a bunch of stuff. So it's going to be pretty interesting. That's March 15th in My Own World with Andreas on Hollow Earth. And in general, like a sneeze across the face of the internet, you can find Andreas Xirtus at this point. If you type in Spotify or iTunes or all of the things you're used to, I'm sure someone somewhere has a video of me at this point doing something. But if you go to Xirtus.com or Andreas.me or YouTube or Odyssey or Rumble, you can look for Andreas Xirtus and you will find me. And I have videos that are exclusive on Odyssey and exclusive on Rumble, and YouTube is kind of just the what is allowed publicly,
Right. Yeah, and dude, like I said, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate you joining us. And Juan and Chris here, thank you both. And wow, what an episode, folks. Right out the gates, Illuminati confirmed. We hit on, like Chris said, a lot of names and dates. And this is one of these episodes where Andreas Xirtus is definitely not Illuminati confirmed. He's legit. He's based. He's a researcher. He's one of those out there helping us identify who the Illuminati may be. And
Euclidean confirmed.
Illuminati
sounds-
confirmed.
You didn't use any slang except for based like 3 times. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, I do. Okay, so that's another thing. I do run advanced philosophy memes. If you go to Xirtus.com, you can click on the advanced philosophy memes button, and those memes are based and advanced. So those would be my main slangs, I would say.
Okay, well, I'm glad we're on the same page with that at least.
That was fucking great.
Right on.
Loved it.
Right on. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. And like we alluded to, the Illuminati Confirmed has a Patreon only show. We only just got started, so go check out the 1 or 2, 3 episodes that we have behind the paywall and check us out. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great moment wherever you are in the now. Peace.
Cool it down. Cool it down. Scheming for $1 red hand movements from blue collar. Who shot you off the Nebuchadnezzar? Your endeavors oh so clever, water bent through the weather. Pull the lever to the maze, rag race, chasing their own tails. Broke nails, drag me down, trying to swipe at the crown. You're enthusiastic, just sarcastic, and frail bastard. Spit acid from the dark, casting your life plastic. That means you're fake as fuck, this nickel plate makes snakes duck. And it cut like penicillin, unmasked villain. Product of hip hop, product of fuck cops. Product of the projects where they pull off hip hop, pop, fall rock. Knocks ascended just like a comet, black dragon vomit. Mind deep is beside his pocket, who dare to stop it? Believe me, this shit dope like 30 keys. The locksmith, Bible weave with higher options. Consume the universe and spit out sons to light profit. Bananas and X bars, time calls towards Mars. Moonwalk with Michael, I'm infinite, sign I glow. Bruce Leroy, fan, hand, flight kick, deploy. Bite the bullet, hang by the neck just like mullet. Nigga, please utilize 3 so you can see. You know my steez never was much for mass appeal. I might get killed, take you to realms with demons revealed. Unveiled deals kept concealed with soul seals. They don't like that. Black fist gauntlet tell you to fight back. I'm righteous. Decapitate serpents that worship ISIS. Illuminati all through my body, shine through tri-iris. Illuminated minds define the rhymes that were designed. Give sight to the blind, disguise is dumb shit. Angel fly over your head and dumb shit. Wingspan 7 from the land of the lions. Find my scribes and shrines, worship by Mayans, I'm prime. See, I chill with a dime, bumping iron and wine. See, I'm sipping my wine, gripping my iron, I'm fine. Pray to Father in heaven, hoping he open the sky. Broke the DeLorean orbit, then fire lost in the time. Be the signs of the time, this time the world is mine. Use my mind as a weapon, limitless astral projection. Manifest all these blessings, no question.
Kyle, what's up?
What's up, man? I'm Kyle, and host of the Big Dumb Podcast. I've had Mark and Juan on my show. Haven't had you on, St. Christopher. I'll work on that, though. Big fans of all you guys, though. Love what you all do. And, appreciate the opportunity, man. Should be fun. I'm just here to talk some shit and defend Bill Cosby if y'all are going to attack me for that.
Man, I got a little pudding on my side of my bed. You can have a pudding pop if you want. You know what I'm saying? I got some of this barbecue sauce upstairs. Motherfucker creepy, bro. That shit that you played earlier was creepy as fuck, dog.
Dude,
Yeah,
so
bro, that's subliminal messaging, right?
100%, dude. I mean, the fact that that was on the Bill Cosby show. Like one day I was just looking for Bill Cosby clips just because I got the poster and I was going to find like his I was looking for that. And I type in, Bill Cosby clips on YouTube, and that fucking thing pops up with a sensitivity warning on it. Like I had to approve my age or whatever on YouTube to watch that clip about barbecue sauce. Yeah, because it blew up after he got, after he, found out he was date raping all those women, which is terrible. I think YouTube and a lot of people realized like, oh shit, he was talking about this back when he was doing the show. So.
Dude, you don't have to preface that shit with it was terrible, dude. We know about you, bro. we know about you and your barbecue sauce. No, I'm just fucking with you, Kyle. So, as I'm the only one that's really not super familiar, and I guess we're kind of doing this on our thing. Tell us about the Big Dumb Podcast, please.
Oh, dude, just like Mark said, it's just one of those shows with bad information. And we really I don't really research anything. I do research on my own, of course, but I don't bring it to the show. I really just like to have good conversations with cool people like Juan and Mark and hopefully you and just talk. And because I don't claim to know everything. That's why it's the Big Dumb Podcast. I'm just a average guy trying to have some fun. And it's really more of an outlet for me, dude, because I can't talk about this shit with anybody in my life.
Yeah.
And it's been very helpful to find a community in Alt Media United and people like you guys, just to be able to fucking talk so I don't, blow my brains out. You know what I mean? Because the world is crazy, and it's beautiful all at the same time. And it's just a matter of on a journey to find that balance and to grow and to learn and to have a good time doing it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, usually everybody in the podcasting community, again, usually is cool. 9 times out of 10. I mean, 9 times out of 10, everybody's cool. I've had my run-ins with a couple of sleazy people, and I've only ever had to like leave one podcast that I did because, again, the dude was just straight up disrespecting me. So I wasn't, just because a piece of information that somebody else doesn't mean that you're like fucking the messiah of the information, you fuck. And that's what it was with this guy.
And anyone ever try to charge you to come on your show?
No, I mean, I really wouldn't ever pay for anybody unless it's like Nick Cage. Then I'd pay to have him on. But
yeah, I'd pay. How much would you pay to get Nick Cage on the show?
probably like 10 grand.
10 grand? You got that sitting around, or would you have to plan ahead?
No, I haven't sit around. I could pay 10 grand to have him on.
Okay.
But then I would end my podcasting career then. That's it.
Last day.
That's a peak.
That'd be the last day, bro. That's it. No more podcasting after that.
Well, I think then you'd really, but you'd take off though. You know what I mean? That's a bad place to stop. You could
But
just.
this isn't about the listeners. This is about me. This is my journey. This is my ascension. My my archive of evolution, if you will. That's what it's all about. So
Juan, you don't got to go no further. You got ordained today, my dude. Like you made it, bro. You made it. Inner sanctum. You good, man. You one of the priests initiates. You know what I mean?
Reverend Juan,
in the mail. You get a special decoder pin. You get all the funky shit, bro. You're in there, bro.
You got the garb? The garb's on the way?
He's getting the garb.
No, I have one already. I have a druid robe that I can wear.
But you got to wear that and get it embroidered maybe with Reverend Juan. Did you get a new name, or are you still Juan?
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I think I have to go to because then I have to go to the Social Security office, change my name and all this shit. So I don't know.
No, but I mean within the order.
Like your Christian name. You don't got to change your name on paper. Yeah. Just you are in the church. You are now. You can pick a name, dude. Fuck it.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's pick your name right now.
Reverend Cage.
How dare you?
That's blasphemy right there, dude.
That's legit.
Hail Nicolas Cage.
Nah, bro. Not today, dude. You fucked up.
Nah, I didn't,
bro.
You
fucked up. Dude, you're going to got his son's coming after you. That beautiful Viking warrior man. He's coming for you,
He's
man.
Gorgeous, right?
Gorgeous. His eyes are piercing.
He's beautiful. Let's pull him up here. Hold on, let me check it.
Kyle, do you know who we're talking about?
Who? Nick Cage?
His son.
His son?
Googles.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull him up now. Watch.
You can get your mind blown.
What's that like Nick Cage movie coming out where he plays himself?
Next month.
Yeah.
Dude, we gotta pirate that shit and do a live stream and watch it.
Look at this beautiful man, bro. Look at this.
Oh my god. He dyes his beard or his hair.
No.
He's gorgeous.
No. You're hating.
No, I'm not hating. It's just how it goes.
You good, Mark?
You don't think a man can be that beautiful?
I mean,
Mark is almost that beautiful.
Is he transitioning?
No, dude. How dare you?
No, asking because he's beautiful. Okay, go back.
He's rugged.
That's better. I like that more. As a Texas man, that's what I'm all about. Right there.
As a Texas man.
Yeah, that's what I like to see.
Hey, you want to wear his hat, young Bronco?
I want him to wear his hat and then wear me. Yeah.
What?
On his face, bro? Is that what you're trying? Look at that, bro. He's fucking gorgeous, son.
Oh my. That's like a young Nick Cage.
And versatile.
That's gone in 60 seconds right there.
Yeah.
Wow. I'd be gone in 60 seconds if he walked in the room.
Wait, this is okay.
Yo, Mark, is your mic coming through? Can you talk?
Yo, Mark, some braille over there.
Yeah, we can hear that. Can you talk so we can hear your voice, your beautiful?
Can explain all the. That was my voice.
All right, good. So we got everybody in here, but yeah, this is Weston Cage. Look at that. He's gorgeous, man.
Oh my god, he's like if Hunter Biden didn't.
How baller is that, bro? Look at that shit.
The most baller. That's Gucci.
Is that a mink? Is that a mink he's wearing around his neck? It's gorgeous.
I wonder what that ring is though. He's wearing.
Oh, dude, you gotta zoom in on the ring.
I
That
can't.
if that's
I'm trying to zoom
Illuminati
in.
right there. Oh my gosh. Wow, what a beautiful man. I had no idea Nick Cage had a son. What is
Look at that photo.
okay, Chris Angel? Anybody? Chris Angel?
Dude.
Whatever happened to that guy, Chris Angel?
Oh, he's still in Vegas, dude. Still
Look at
doing
this.
shows. Longest
Really?
running show. Yeah, but behind Carrot Top, he's the longest running regular resident performer in Vegas.
What the fuck? That's crazy. This guy is the reincarnation of Thor.
Look at those fucking arms, dude.
He's a martial artist too, so he's right up Mark's alley. Mark has
So he's a martial artist, model, magician.
He is.
Actor.
He is. Here's his thing. He's an actor, musician, martial artist, and a spiritualist. You can't leave out the spiritualist in there.
Dude, are you gonna get him on the show?
We've written to him, but he
trying,
doesn't
bro.
write back, bro.
Dang.
He'll come around. He'll be here one day.
Yeah, one day he'll come.
Oh, that's an eyes wide shut mask right there, dude. He's got the sun.
Yeah.
He's got the two R's, R and R,
Rest
For,
and relaxation.
Yeah, Illuminati confirmed, dude. This guy.
Yeah, I think it would be dope to have him on, but again, Cage is Coppola. This is his magazine supposedly.
I
that he
love
has.
this guy.
He's got a magazine. Wow, dude, his hair is just so perfect. I mean, and it changes so drastically.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that.
That's Cage. Wow,
Oh, dude.
dude, he's so
good.
dynamic. So dynamic.
He is. He's
You could really see his father in that last picture, the one of him
Oh.
upside down.
this one. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
That needs to be on a shirt, dude. That's the first Illuminati confirmed T-shirt, dude, right there. We print it upside down. It'd be so sick, dude. What? Done. Fuck you guys.
Fantastic, dude.
That's amazing. Look at him, dude.
I think other
Hurry.
podcasts are trying to hit him up. Look like, hey, dude, if you're up, hit me up.
They're jealous, dude. They know we know.
They know that we know, bro. We want to talk to Daddy. What was the picture that you commented on, bro? I saw you commented on a picture one time.
Said, tell your dad sup or something like that.
Tell your dad I called. Tell him to call me back.
Yeah, this stuff is fun. Kyle, what's the craziest shit you come across on your podcast? How many episodes are you in now?
Well, straight episodes, like with the guests and everything, I'm at like 54. I just put out 54 today, but total episodes, I probably got around 70 because I do live shows sometimes. I used to do an actual beer review with my co-host where we would get some craft beer and review them. But I'm down a co-host now, so it's just me, and so I'm trying to readjust, trying to reevaluate, and while still continuing to interview guests and things like that. So, craziest shit I've come across, dude.
Yeah.
So one of the craziest theories I've heard was that the whole climate change thing is actually to bring back the antediluvian climate so that the lizard people can thrive.
Yes.
Like they actually want it to get warmer, but they don't want it to get too hot. So that's why they're trying to stop it now, because by the time they stop, we stop climate change, it'll be at that perfect temperature for the antediluvian climate where like the Nephilim and the lizard people roamed. And so it's actually like a perfect climate for them and bad for humans. There's actually more carbon and things in the air. So that blew my mind, that theory. And then obviously there's some, crazy stuff out there.
What's up with the flat Earth, though, Kyle? I saw you were like
what's up
so
with that?
stoked about putting this thing out with flat Earth. What's up with that?
Oh, I went on another guy's show. We did a little swap cast. He thought I was a flat Earth expert, I guess. And he just was like, "Hey, come on and talk about flat Earth." And I was like, "Okay." And so went on his show's Moral Bob of Hidden in Plain Sight podcast.
Hail Bob. There it goes,
Hail
Bob
Bob.
again.
Well, Bob.
Dude, we ended up just talking about like the nature of, because when you get into flat Earth, you kind of just default to like the nature of reality. You know what I mean? Because you realize what you're being lied to about,
Wait.
I'm still on the fence on flat Earth, just because I don't know, man. I don't want to jump in too far, you know, and not be able to come back.
How much? What's your percentage of flat Earth are you?
I'm like 35% flat Earth, and then like 40% hollow Earth, and then the rest like
hollow being a sphere.
I don't know. Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive, right? Because you could have hollow in the flat Earth, right? Like if it's like, you know,
because it's like choppy at the bottom. It's like a disc.
right.
But
So
that's just floating through time space, or is time and space not real?
I don't know, dude.
See, I can't get it encapsulated fast enough where I can get a picture in my head. Like sometimes I need somebody to just tell me.
So think of a frisbee, bro, just in
and
space.
There's a rocks underneath, and then somehow there's a dome underneath, and that's keeping out what water.
Think like a snow globe, right? Like a snow globe. How there's the dome, and then there's the base, right? And then it's flat inside.
Yeah.
Maybe like that. If that kind of helps you visualize.
Like that's flying through time and space.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think that's the biggest holdup for me is that when you see that model of the solar system with the Earth and the Moon flying around, and then flying around the sun, and then moving, you know, that's what throws it off for me because I'm like, there's no way that's all happening.
But what's beyond that?
I don't know, dude. I think this is a special place. I think, but I don't know, dude. Because
it's like an alien ant farm for humans. They're just like, we got, right?
You've been struck by, yes.
But what's beyond that?
I don't know, dude. I don't think we'll ever really know.
Just bigger aliens,
infinity,
like ant farms for those aliens.
Well, have you seen Men in Black 2? I think.
Yeah. This is the way that it ends. Like this is what I'm alluding to. It's like levels within levels within levels.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible.
Wasn't it a marble that we were in?
The cat's on the cat's collar, right?
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. It's like one of the old sayings is there's turtles all the way down, just meaning it's like kind of Inception.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying is like I understand what you're saying. Maybe it's the G is just like between the levels, right? It's between levels. So we're at one perspective. Animals got a different perspective. Ants got a different perspective. Microbes got a different perspective. Calcium has a different perspective. I understand that. Planets have a different perspective. So it's levels within levels. Like that makes sense. But I'm saying though, if it is a flat Earth and there is a goddamn bubble over the shit, what's beyond that motherfucking bubble?
Oh, so and I'm not subscribing to this, but and if we're going off of that, I would say it's like water. You know, space is like a liquid rather than a empty vacuum. You know, there's some sort of I don't know. It's an energy, I guess, or
antimatter and shit. Yeah. And
but we've never been there though. But so we wouldn't really know that because we've never been to space. Because
here's what I say about that. Either we haven't been to space, or we've been a lot farther than they say we have. You know what I mean? Either we've been throughout the entire solar system, possibly throughout the galaxy, or we've never left Earth. Because
I have so this is the thing that gets me about flat Earth. And we were talking about Tartaria and flat Earth the other day. And I brought up how there's more evidence for Tartaria than flat Earth. And some guy in the comments was like, "Oh, I was listening until the misinformation." Listen, you fuck. And you know who I'm talking about? That person that commented that shit. I've literally had Mark Sargent and David Weiss on my fucking podcast. So as far as not knowing about flat Earth, I know about it. Now listen, it's very easily discredited. Build a fucking rocket, get on the rocket, and launch it into space, and you'll see if it's flat or not. If you get far away enough, it'll get small enough to go, okay, well, it's a globe. Or, okay, well, it's actually flat. That's it. Tartaria, on the other hand, an ancient lost civilization, which there's evidence of, that is like tangible physical proof. The guy was like, there's infinite things for evidence. And I go, what? That, okay, NASA's fake. Okay, whatever. All government organizations lie. We know this. They're lizards. What's next? Oh, well, the curvature. Well, you know that airplanes, they go and hide behind the horizon for a reason. Okay, so that there's obviously some sort of curve there if they hide behind the horizon. All this shit. Like, what else? Oh, well, the stars are a projection system. Sure, maybe. But just build a rocket. If you have enough monopoly money, you could build a rocket and just shoot yourself into space and see it for yourself. And that's it. Tartaria, on the other hand, we're not ever going to really know there was a Tartaria or not, but there's physical evidence for it that says otherwise. So that's where I'm on the line. Now, Hollow Earth, 100% there's a fucking Hollow Earth.
Yeah, dude. And I think
100%.
Tartaria is also much more interesting than Flat
Yes.
Earth, in my opinion, because it.
Wait. Hollow Earth 100%?
Bro,
Yeah.
there's fucking Darren. Look up. I'm gonna look it up. Darren Kuyu. There's underground cities,
Yeah.
full underground cities underneath the earth that the people have
Dude,
built.
every they say
There's some
like
in Turkey.
Odessa, there's a huge
That's Darren Kuyu, yeah.
Yeah, and they got in Prague and in even in Barcelona, there's like areas of the city with the glass over it that you can look down and see the ancient stuff that's about 15,
So check
20
this out.
kilometers.
This is Darren Kuyu, okay?
Yeah.
And this is a full underground city. Like this, there's just caverns underground, okay? And this is
That's
only,
not Hollow Earth. That's Hollow Earth.
bruh.
No.
So the thing, okay,
That's
so the
deep.
whole thing behind Hollow Earth is that underneath the Earth is not solid. So who's to say if you have Edmund Halley, the guy who came up with Halley's Comet, concave Earth, he was the first one to talk about having a hollow Earth. Now, he talked about that there was a concave Earth. So there was a sun inside,
Yeah.
encapsulated within our and then the entrances was at the North Pole and South Pole. You have
Mhm.
Admiral Byrd talking about the entrance at the South Pole, where he fought Nazi mole people. And mind you, Edmund Halley from Halley's Comet, okay, a very smart individual, talked about concave Earth, and it's just the center in the sun, the two openings, and then like a globe in that one, and then a concentric circles. He
It's like
talked
layers.
about layers,
And that
like an onion.
that kind of plays into the Atlantis theory too.
Yes.
Concentric circles and things that maybe it wasn't lost to the sea, but it actually went. Those people, the society, the people went into the sea, quote unquote, to Hollow Earth. And then you look at like that model of like the core and stuff that you see in like textbooks. I mean, it makes like that makes I don't know if that's what you're looking at, but like they don't really know what's under the earth. They
No,
just
they
say,
don't.
oh, we shoot sound waves down there, and it says this is the mantle that's like lava. You really think the earth is just like liquid magma all the way down, or a solid iron core? I mean, it's I don't know, man.
So you
I don't
have
know.
the central sun, right? That's what they're talking about. The city of Shambhala. You have Agartha. You have this race of highly intelligent. So you have like Mammoth's cave system is one of the longest cave systems ever. We don't know where it ends. You have these cave systems even in Vietnam, that one live stream that we were doing, where there's full ecosystems within these cave systems. So who's to say that there's a reason why they don't want us to go to the South Pole? Okay, and when you go to the South Pole, there is supposedly, where the South Pole is supposed to be, it's not the real South Pole. So they're hiding something. There's a reason why all these elites are tweeting about meeting up in Antarctica. What are they talking about?
Yeah, and that plays into the flat earth thing because they say that the South Pole is like the ice wall around the whole earth.
Yes.
When really it could just be a barrier of entry to the hollow earth or to the lands beyond. I don't know.
In Dante's Inferno, I mean, there's stories about this where they talk about entering concentric circles within the earth, and underneath all that is where these highly evolved races of entities have lived. So
Yeah, it's in our pop culture everywhere too. You look at like the Gears of War games. There's like all
Yeah.
these demons under the ground or whatever that are, or the locust or whatever. And then more recently, even the fucking Godzilla versus King Kong, dude. That movie's all about flat Earth, dude.
flat Earth or Hollow Earth?
Hollow Earth. I'm sorry, Hollow Earth, dude.
You can do both. You can do Hollow Earth and Flat Earth. At the
Even
same time.
Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah,
wait. Hold on. You could do Flat Earth and Hollow Earth at the same time.
maybe. That's.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's. It's not mutually exclusive.
Okay. I just need a picture. I need somebody to draw me something.
So how does this relate to Hollow? Because they come out of the world, right? They come out of the earth.
That's where so they're the Titans, right? Or the whatever the Japanese call the monsters or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's a word for it. The Jaiku or whatever.
The kaijus.
Kaijus, yeah, they are from the Hollow Earth. King Kong's throne. So in the movie, it's, sorry if I spoil it, but they go down to Antarctica and they enter Hollow Earth and they bring King Kong back to his like ancestral homeland where he was actually like the king underneath the earth. Like he had a throne and everything there was like cavernous. And what's interesting is how when they like it talks about like the two lands, right? So there's like earth on the surface, and then you go down, and gravity actually inverts. So they have to fight this inversion. So they come down, and then at a certain point they have to gravity flips. It's super. So like the crust of the underside of the crust is actually the inside, the ground.
They're walking on the inside
because the sun is in the middle, where if you fell into the hollow earth, you'd fall into the sun, right? If you fell into the hollow earth. So the gravity actually flips once you get inside, and they had to have like a special ship or whatever to get down there. But King Kong just fucking jumped down there and, whipped around, and he was on the other side of it.
Whoa.
He's a monkey, dude. He could do shit like that.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Because he was a monkey, he could do it. Great movie though. I watched it 3 times. It's like a wink and a nudge, and also a middle finger to conspiracy theorists, because they hit everything, dude. They hit like they like the hero in it is like a conspiracy podcaster.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, it's great, dude. And then so you got Hollow Earth, you got government lies. I mean, it hits so many things. Great movie.
Kyle, would you say you're more or less of a conspiracy theorist after having chats with all these people?
More than I was before.
I mean, that's for you to you tell me.
Probably, yeah.
You believe a lot of this shit that because sometimes sometimes we play a little skeptical too, like I want to hear a good story and everything like the next guy, but
I always try to be skeptical, especially with something new or with flat earth. I definitely ask the questions,
Yeah.
And is there an echo? Is that on me?
Who's that on?
I don't know. Maybe me.
So
is that you, Mark?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
How much with the talking to these fringe people, fringe topics, whatever you want to say, like how much of it like stuck to you? You know what I mean? Are you coming back out like the other end, like, nah, I don't believe any of it? You coming out like, yo, this shit is, mad sus in every direction, or like,
well, I'll just say that our collectively our batting average has been pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think especially over the last 2 years, we've really hit like, batting 1,000. When it comes to the COVID narrative and things like that, and the digital dollar, World Economic Forum, things like that.
Got you. Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, I think the other stuff like Flat Earth and Tartaria, like that's really just fun. It's fun to explore the different possibilities, because here's how, once you find out that the news and the schools and the government has been lying to your whole life.
Yeah.
You really got to just question everything. You know what I mean? And I don't take a hard stance on a whole lot of things just because, it's easy for anybody can make good points and have, good ideas.
Yeah.
And be on opposite sides. And when I have a guest or someone on, I always try to ask the opposite, because my mom watches the show, right? So I always try to ask like questions that I think my mom would have,
Cool. Yeah.
Like mom would be like, well, what about that? And she's coming around, she's woken up to a lot of the bullshit and stuff, but what is that, dude? And that's cute.
Bro, so the Mariana Trench, right, is the deepest part of our ocean. And there's animals like this existing in the Mariana Trench, okay? Where they're fucking aliens in real life. So
100%, dude.
Hold on, let's clarify. The who's fucking aliens in a marijuana trench?
We all are.
I need to translate. I'm looking out for all the New England listeners who don't understand Juan's thick accent.
Mark, what are you smoking on, dog? What are you smoking, that crap over there, dog?
Dude, there's a few things that Juan said so far that I'm like, hold on, I need to clip that and make that into a sound effect. But tell us a bit more about this marijuana trench and who's fucking aliens inside of it.
The Mariana Trench is the deepest part of one of our oceans. And the Marinara, and there is animals like this in there that look. This is an alien.
It's not a Pokemon.
It's a Pokemon.
No, that's the jellyfish from Finding Nemo.
The Dumbo octopus.
Okay, there are things like at the bottom of our oceans that look like have you ever seen a manta ray on mushrooms? It's an alien, dog. It's an alien.
How do another Juanism? How do manta rays get access to mushrooms?
No.
I'm just gonna keep decoding your phraseology, Juan, because I think it's brilliant.
While you ingest mushrooms, if you look at a manta ray, this is an alien. Look at this. Look, this is
Dude,
amazing.
those are the craft that fly out of the ocean and go into space.
Literally,
It's
look.
manta rays. Yeah, dude, that's what people see. It's not a spaceship, or it is, but they're manta rays. They go down in the ocean, they fly around Earth, and they go into space, into the water in space. They just go from water to water. You know.
Can we
Whoa.
get the picture of the manta ray's mouth?
Wait,
Again?
what? Wait, Kyle, what?
Whoa.
Well, so we're going back, I guess, to what's outside of space in the flat Earth model or whatever. Well, in the Bible, and I'm not a biblical person, but it's an ancient text. It says God separated the waters from the waters, and people think that means like the land, like the continents.
Whoa.
But other people think it could mean like the seawater from the water around, like in space. Like there's the atmosphere or whatever, or the dome or whatever is that separation of waters.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. And so you think
What the
manta rays
fuck?
fly outer space?
Well, you've seen those craft, right? Those there's a term, like an acronym for them, that they're
Unidentified submerged object, I think. USOs.
but they also can fly. It's a type of craft that can fly in water, air, and space, allegedly. And that's also in the Godzilla versus King Kong movie. They have one of these crafts. That's how they get into the Hollow Earth. But it's like it can fly in all terrains.
Have you guys seen this? The Baltic Sea anomaly. Have you guys seen that?
It's like Millennium Falcon, dude.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
The bottom of the Baltic Sea.
And what the fuck that's it?
No, this is not it, but the actual like scan of it.
For the audio listeners, it looks like a fossilized UFO on the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, kind of like Millennium Falcon shaped.
Mm-hmm. So we don't even know it's the bottom of our oceans, let alone they're going to tell us what is. You know how many miles there are in a light year? 7 trillion miles in 1 light year. So how can you even wrap your head around that? Okay, so we've established that NASA is shady. They're lizards. There's only one organization, right, that is this gatekeeper of space, being NASA, because all the SpaceX and all these other entities, they operate through NASA. NASA pays them. And NASA being the government, 100%, they're shady. But focus on the bottom of our oceans first before going out to understand Mars, Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, all this stuff.
And you'd think if they really wanted to learn more about the oceans, they would take these billion-trillion-dollar telescopes and just turn them back at Earth and look down. You know what I mean? Like, if you can look through a billion light years with these fucking telescopes, allegedly, you should be able to see through a few miles of water. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And really see what's going on.
Absolutely.
But I don't think they want. I think that's where a big secret has always been in the ocean, dude.
And
maybe it's Atlantis or just like mermaids or some shit. I don't know.
Let's see here. Check this out. The Japanese Atlantis.
Yanaguni.
Yeah, bro. The Yanaguni. Yeah, the monuments. Check this out. This is underground. The government says this is nothing to see here. They don't want you around here.
They're saying this is nothing. This is like
this is natural. They said this is natural.
Okay.
This is natural, and this is at the Devil's Triangle, where there are spottings of UFOs, USOs,
ships that go missing.
Ships that go missing. There's
like the Bermuda Triangle of Asia.
Oh wait, there's the what's the road, the Bimini Road too?
Yeah,
that's in Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, Bimini though road.
Yeah, that's Bermuda Triangle.
Show you a Bermuda Triangle, son.
Bro, we got the shades. We got the shades on now, dude. Everybody's strapped up with glasses on the podcast. If you're not listening via video, we do some live streaming. Juan's got a fucking YouTube channel.
Oh, wait, we're live right now?
That's what StreamYard says. I don't know.
No, we're not live right now, bro. But I'm planning on doing another live stream soon. I found a way to do it on Instagram. I want to check it first before. I want to check the cropping, how it looks first before I do it. But my next live stream is going to be on YouTube and Instagram. But yes.
Tune in for Juan's cropped stream where he's dressed in a crop top.
Crop tops only.
We're going to be putting this on Patreon and Rokfin too. So everybody who wants the video version of the show, support us. and also support Kyle. Kyle is the host of the Big Dumb Podcast. Hi, I'm Mark, host of a lot of different podcasts. I feel like I missed out on the beginning of this podcast, so just butting in with a quick little intro here while Juan gives us a slideshow.
You self-promoting son of a bitch.
Yeah, and I totally forgot to start recording on my end, so someone's gonna stream this audio.
Oh, I'm not recording on my end either. Juan, you better be recording on
Yeah, I'm
your end.
recording on StreamYard, both audio and video, and recording on my Roadcaster audio. So.
Cool. Thanks.
Oh my God.
Professional.
Hey,
Oh my
Juan,
God.
look
For audio listeners, Juan is in juicy sweatpants and a crop top. He's looking very much flash dance right now. It's sexy.
Mm-hmm.
and he got a new cutout of Nick Cage in the nude.
Oh no, I didn't. I wish.
Hey, so you should look up, if you want to see aliens under the ocean, look up the mantis shrimp.
Oh,
Look it up.
Mm.
Juan.
This
Yeah.
thing's fucking nuts, dude.
That's the only thing that can like break through the glass of a aquarium, right?
Oh, dude,
Wow.
it can basically, its hands, it's got some like UFC bot, like this thing could take Mike Tyson. Its hands can
No, it
punch
can't.
so fast that it can like it's
What?
so fast
Yeah.
it boils the water around it and creates a
No.
flash of light.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, but
like
if Mike Tyson was swimming next to it, he would just grab it and crush it.
it's
Well, I'm
got
saying, like, proportionately, if this thing was
Right.
life size, we'd be fucked.
it's got
Right.
the power of a 22 long rifle. The strength
exactly,
of its
dude. And
ball.
its eyes, it can see like an infrared, an X-ray, and UV, but it also can see 14 colors. So humans can only see red, blue, and green, right, on the spectrum, like in a mix of those. So imagine 11 other colors that you can't imagine. And
That's what I'm saying. Do you think it could see stuff that we can't see, like aliens, man?
How would we even know that if we can't see the colors?
that's what I'm saying. I don't know. The science, well, trust the science, Mark. Come on. The
No,
scientists say,
but I'm saying, like, if this thing can look at infrared, let's just say, for example, or infrared's probably a bad example, actually. But
Damn,
let's just
Juan
say it
doesn't
can
follow me
see
on YouTube.
in another thing,
Yeah, I do.
right? Can it see? Are you guys
I'm just
talking over
kidding.
me?
You don't have a pro podcaster mic like us, so it's easy to talk over you, Chris. I'm sorry.
But he's got the shades on, dude. Let
I
him
just
talk.
about enough of your shit. You all got glasses on. We needed glasses. What's the problem?
I
Yeah,
can't
we're
see
just trying to fit in.
So I'm
Whoa,
saying,
okay.
can this shit see other shit that we can't see?
100%, dude. Look at those fuckers. Look
Like
at those
what?
eyeballs.
Like your dead uncle or something. I don't
That's
know.
what I'm
Ghosts.
saying, right?
No, yeah, it
Ghosts.
can see like different light spectrums, so like UV and infrared, X-ray. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's got X-ray vision, but also on the color spectrum, it can see colors that we can't.
Mm.
Allegedly, but look at that motherfucker. It's so cute too. They're only like a few inches long. They're not.
So I
very
have a
big.
story with one of these. I have a friend of mine who has aquariums, and he has a saltwater aquarium. One time he bought, I think, some coral or something like that, and he put it in his tank. Didn't think anything of it, and then he starts looking. He had a really expensive fish in there. The fish started turning up dead. He's like, "Why are my fish dying?" And apparently, lodged in one of the corals that he had gotten was a little shrimp like this. These shrimp need to be in special tanks because they need to be at least 2 inches thick because their hit is so powerful they can crack tanks. And
Yeah, and
homeboy was killing all his fish. Just bop,
Oh
bop,
my
bop,
god. Well,
bop.
and so there's two different kinds. There's kinds with the clubs like that, like see those fucking hammers on his arm, and then there's another kind that has spears. So it's got like little fucking swords on its arms, and it just look, watch knockout, dude. Oh my god, punch that motherfucker.
All right, but we are on a audio base here, boys.
Oh, sorry.
So we're describing a shrimp that's punching things.
Yeah, the
Yes.
shrimp has got hands like no other, and it just punched the fuck
Got
out of the crab.
boxing gloves on.
It literally
got a
looks like boxing.
Sweatband.
So do we think like gigantic ones of those are like out there in space, maybe?
Ooh.
Perhaps.
Good question.
Talk about the Big Bang. Maybe that's what started the Big Bang.
Oh,
Flash of
wow,
light.
shrimp.
Check this guy out. He catches one and it hits him on the boot and it makes him bleed
Through the boot?
through the boot. Yeah, look, it's right there.
Crack your boat in half with that.
And
Dude,
he's
watch
bleeding.
your nuts, dude. Watch your nuts, dude. Oh, he killed it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't want to show the blood because I don't know what. Oh, this is.
That's crazy, dude.
Punched through his boot, but he put the dead carcass right next to his crotch. That's not a smart move.
Homeboy's
These
bleeding.
things are powerful.
I saw a movie where the premise was all these people got these special gifts like an animal would have, but only for a second or something like that. And somebody got the special gift to do some shrimp thing where it made them go and like kill everybody. So I'm pretty sure I've actually heard of this. It like it's faster than like speed of sound or something crazy, right? And it like makes
like a bullet. It's like a faster than a bullet.
So check this out. There is this thought experiment. It's called Bolt.
Oh, dude, I heard you talk about this.
And what it is, right? Because Chris brought up the idea that maybe there's these things in outer space, like Lovecraftian, great old ones, if you will.
Lovecraftian, totally.
Where, according to this thought experiment, with the vacuum of space, and I think it's called something. It's got to do with thermodynamics, and how everything is always. What the fuck was that? How everything
What's
is.
That?
I don't know who that
Ghost.
How everything is always coagulating and coming together, and how everything is atoms. This thought experiment states that if that is true, depending on the conditions in the vacuum of space, potentially there could be a brain that forms, and even for a split second, for a very split second, it could be an entire lifetime of a person with memories and everything for a split second. As soon as it comes all together and all the neurons connect, it just dissolves back. So who's to say that there isn't some sort of space shrimp out there that coagulates from nothingness and just, because we don't even know what antimatter or matter is. So who's
that
to
kind
say
of plays off this like fractal idea where, you know, things kind of like what Chris said with the, you know, turtles on top of like, you know, just layers and layers and layers. You know, who's to say that there's not, you know, as above so below, almost, where things that form here naturally can also be forming beyond naturally, you know, above us or below us. I mean, you look at a micro a bacteria or something, it's got what looks like a factory running inside of it. I mean, and then we literally like assembly lines to, you know, mitochondria is powerhouse of the cell. That's all you learn in school. And it literally looks like a factory, at least in the pictures. I don't fucking know, but you know, and then now we have factories here on Earth. It's crazy.
And look at octopus, bro. Octopus are the raddest animal ever. They're one of the most intelligent. They literally fit through anything, and they camouflage. That's amazing. Look at that.
They can change their texture too. Like,
whoa.
There's a documentary on Netflix, like My Octopus Teacher.
It's incredible.
I heard he was just trying to fuck this octopus. Should I watch it?
He does actually get it. He gets pregnant. It's crazy.
What?
Does he fall in love with the octopus?
No, he gets pregnant from the octopus, though. It's crazy.
Okay.
You should watch it.
Okay.
Look at this thing,
it just looked kind of weird to me. Like, it seemed very sexual.
No, dude. What? He just, like, at the end of it, like, respects them because they're so incredible. Like,
oh, what the fuck is that? That's not an octopus that just went in there.
Yeah.
Oh, so they can change their texture like that. That's nuts.
That's crazy, bro. Look at that shit. It's Cthulhu, bro.
That is Cthulhu. Look, he's got horns, and then he doesn't. His horns go away. I mean, that is Cthulhu. Oh my god!
How fascinating is just the world we live in? The world we have now is so fascinating, but yet these elites want to shoot dicks into space and want to figure out whatever is out there for God knows what. When there's
segue.
When there's things like this,
they want to kill us, dude.
Yeah, well,
so the octopus can take over.
Wow. This is only happening on this planet.
Oh, 100%, dude.
You think so? Like, yeah, what thing is only happening on this planet? The elites?
No.
I think Jesus came back to Earth and he wrote a book. And he's God's son, and this is a very special place. No, I don't believe any of that shit. I bet you this.
He goes on to here, and he kind of looks like it. I mean, he's doing a
maybe he can only do like natural.
He's a good boy. He's doing a good job. Look at him. He's just chilling.
Looks like a fucking dog on the couch.
It's Cthulhu. It's Cthulhu, man.
Cthulhu's a good boy.
But this world is a sci-fi world that we live in, and there are things that we don't even understand or even begin to comprehend. So who's to say that there are things out of, right? How my whole theory on Bigfoot is that when the flood came and Atrahasis or Noah or whoever you want to pick, depending on which story you follow, when the flood came And the war, right? So when God flooded the world, he killed everything on it. That's how we get demons, because energy can never be destroyed. It can only be transformed.
Wait,
So
what? This is how you really feel about this?
Listen.
Sick.
All the right, when God wanted to purge the world of evil, he destroyed it with a flood. According to the first law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. So when he killed all the evil things, right, the Elohim, all these chimeric creatures, the harpies, the minotaurs, all these things that came about from the Elohim and the Nephilim, he created demons. So that's the evil energy that we have in this world today. Now, when he did that, I believe that something held on to that boat, and as soon as the flood receded, just dipped. So that's how we get Bigfoot, because he's divine. Whatever the Elohim and the Nephilim had sex with, which they procreated with, had divinity, because they were divine. They were fallen angels. They were divine. And this is in the book of Enoch. This is in the book of Genesis. So Bigfoot is a descendant of the Nephilim or the Elohim, and he does have some divinity within him. So that's why he's able to transcend dimensions, and that's why we never see him. That's why we never see bodies or anything.
Well, I'm not discounting that. I think there's some validity to what you just said, but wouldn't that make us divine as well? Even though we aren't necessarily, I know, but can we not transcend dimensions like in Bigfoot style, or is his power just crooked in a way that he can do that because he kind of, it's almost like fallen valor, like
So check this out. The book of Enoch, right? And the reason that's what the elites don't want you to know, I do think that life back then was like Harry Potter. Language was magical and all this shit. So in the book of Enoch, when Enoch is taken up to this upper consciousness, heaven, whatever, and it's run by El. You have the Elohim, you have the Watchers, you have the Nephilim. The Watchers are exactly that. They watch the alchemist, the great divine artificer, whoever you want to call him, at work, creating and uncreating reality. The Hindu Trinity is where we got the Christian Trinity from. Their deity is the destroyer, the creator, and the maintainer, or some shit like that. When Enoch, at the end of the book of Enoch, the first Enoch, when Enoch is done being taught all the things from the Elohim and the Nephilim and all this stuff, he turns into Metatron and he creates and maintains reality. So that's the same thing with us. If we're able to harness this gnosis, we turn into this higher entity because we have the divine spark within us. Through gnosis, through sacred knowledge, you're able to become your own living God. And that's what they don't want you to know. That's why they keep us in prison with all this other bullshit. Technology, social media, division, political parties. My car make is better than yours. I have more money than you, to keep you busy. Because what do they do in North Korea? They keep 85% of the population hungry so they don't revolt. They're too busy trying to survive. We're too busy trying to survive spiritually in this realm that we don't ever achieve that higher level of consciousness. How Helena Blavatsky talked about the ascended masters, these entities of higher consciousness, that they just fucking float, bro. They don't even walk. They just float. Pythagoras was omnipotent, bro. He was a deity, dog. He was traveled and he learned all the secrets of all the Eleusinian mysteries and all these mystery schools around Egypt, India, the Buddhas, all this shit, bro. And he understood numbers and he could hear the music of the spheres. That's why he was in tune with the fucking world, bro. This is what it's all about, man. They don't want us to become Metatron. Okay, they don't want us to know.
I didn't know that Enoch became Metatron, because Metatron is listed as like one of the fallen angels, correct?
He is this entity that is responsible for reality. He's one of like the archangels. He's just archangel. Yeah, it's all got to do with sacred geometry. But the moral of the story is that after learning these secrets that these divine entities were teaching him, a man, because God swooped Enoch up. He was like, "Come with me." He was the only one of the two people in the Bible that got swooped up without having to die. And he went up there and they're like, "Yo, this is what we're doing." Look, and he talks about how he's around these angels. And that's why it's not canon. It's not in the canon, because as soon as they were reading it, the original church fathers and the council in Nicaea, they're like, "Man, this shit is trippy as fuck. Like, we don't want them to know about this, that they can become their own divine being. Nah, fam. Let's throw that out. Just non-canon. Hide that in the Nag Hammadi or in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Just throw that in a cave somewhere and don't translate it for over 40 years, because they ain't got to know about these secrets. we're going to run this shit, the establishment, and we're going to broker this experience. And they have to pay us in order to achieve that divine status. But hey, they're going to die before they even get there. So that's the conspiracy right there. Organized religion at its core is fucking the conspiracy. You know?
Well, they've been the power rulers for millennia, dude. I mean, at the end of the day, it all goes back to those are the ones who had the power, you know? So it makes sense. Well, and our fucking elites are in their own kind of weird, sick religion at some point, in some sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all cult as fuck, bro. It's what it all is. It's all a cult. But again, divide and conquer. What do? They divide so they can control a little. And even within religion, you have denominations that they can't even agree on one final thought.
One part of it, yeah.
Yeah. So exactly one part. So at the end of the day, we are all thoughts fighting with each other, you know, ideas, intellects fighting with one another. Because what are wars fought for? Oh, I don't like what you said, or I don't like what your people are doing versus
You
what
fuck my
people.
bitch.
Yeah. So
Literally thoughts.
thoughts, bruh. Thoughts. So
That's crazy. That's full circle. Hey, you're welcome for the genius shit on this end, bro.
but
Some
seriously,
genius.
Well, you're not ordained yet, though, dude. So
I'm already a pope in Discordianism.
Contrary, we just had him ordained by Reverend Ivan Stang himself only a few hours ago. So,
Come on,
Sorry,
let's
Kyle.
go. Let's go.
you are blessed, Chris. You are blessed, brother.
Kyle, you're talking to two holy men and a degenerate mystic.
well, shit, I need to get on y'all's level then.
That's right.
What
Alright.
can I do? What can I do to ascend?
$44.99.
You gotta eat beans for a year, dog, and
Dude,
then
you
hit
gotta-
us back.
You got to
been
smoke up
eating
some
beans.
frop.
Hit the frop.
No, you
pens,
can't,
son.
Chris. You can't eat beans, bro. You
Why?
can't. Pythagoras said you can't eat beans, dog. There was.
Get the fuck
Listen,
outta here.
I'm serious, bro. Listen, these ancient mystics were on to some next level shit.
What do they eat?
What do they eat?
They were on a strict vegetarian diet. They only ate certain types of fish because
Beans
they
are
understood that
vegetarian.
every single living entity is an angel, a life trapped in this realm. So by you killing it, you would fuck its chance up of it ever ascending. So that's why the Cathars and the Bogomils only ate certain types of fish that didn't procreate. Okay, and Pythagoras said you can't eat beans because they resemble a human fetus, and you're essentially conducting cannibalism. So
Didn't Pythagoras die though? So it's like, you know, everybody still dies. He knows all this shit, and it's like dope. Like I agree, it's like all super high level, interesting, yada yada yada. But
I'm about to hit you with some shit, Chris.
But enlightenment is the goal at the end of the day, and then maybe they achieved that, but they didn't become immortal. They still dead. So
I'm gonna hit you with some shit, Chris.
holla.
I'm gonna hit you with some shit, bro. Did you know that there are animals at the bottom of our oceans that live forever? They're immortal.
I bet they
No.
don't eat beans.
What?
So the conspiracy is that they're spraying in our air, and they don't eat beans 100%. They're spraying in our air things in order to. That's why in all these Sumerian kings lists, they ruled for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, like 800 years or whatever, right? I saw that.
Come on, you know there wasn't no global
What are
warming
they
back then.
spraying in the air? What are they spraying?
Well, chemtrails for one.
Well, I know that, but I mean, for what? To make us like the fish that live forever?
Big
Okay,
Pharma
not-
is here to keep you sick, keep you coming
Oh,
back.
yeah.
You're a
Oh,
number.
yeah. Yeah,
I can see
no.
that.
I agree they're poisoning us in the sky. I just didn't know if it was to benefit someone else's longevity. I
Well,
don't think so. Yeah.
as long as they keep you suppressing that lower energy vibration, that's what supposedly these lizards thrive off of. That's
Yeah.
Dude, I think the conspiracy behind the Space Force is because they want to go to Saturn, because Saturn is controlling this simulation through cymatics.
You're on some David Icke shit.
Bruh, I'm
Dude,
telling you.
cymatics. I blew someone's mind with cymatics the other day. I was like, look at this shit. And they were like, what?
Yeah, it's already known that sound affects things on a molecular level, like
Dude, you talk to your water, dude. Like you just tell your water, hey baby, I love you.
Dude,
It's
as you guys started talking about cymatics, my girlfriend hit the sound bowls that are in the place that we're at right now. So
That's dope.
synchronicity.
Shout out to Liquid Death. Thanks for the box.
Shout out to Tara mastering the sound bowls.
That's right, Tara. Shout out to Tara. So, anyways, sound does affect matter on a deeper level, And the Pythagoreans, Chris, believed in metempsychosis, which is the transmigration of your soul. So depending on how you were in this life, you would be reincarnated eventually as something else, depending on what you were in this life. So if you were a shy, timid person, you would be reincarnated as a deer or as a rabbit or something. If you were like a mean, evil person, you might be reincarnated as a wolf or something with teeth, something nasty, evil. So again, that's why they believed in eating a vegetarian diet and not killing it. Why do you think I have a cock on my hat? Nourish your cock, Chris. Remember what I told you, bro. Nourish.
So, Juan, do you eat a vegetarian diet?
Fuck no. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Okay.
Oh my God, I think that's what Chris was getting at 5 minutes ago before you hit him with the knowledge.
I think you're wearing a cock on your hat because you're showing what team you're on, Brett.
Team cock, bro. Team Abraxas, son. Team Abraxas, bro.
Was Abraxas just a giant dick?
No, Abraxas he was the cock-headed god.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Cock-headed,
bro.
Dude, if
So
you combine the cock with this, I'm reaching here. If you combine the chicken with the snake, you kind of get like a limp cock.
Depending on what kind of snake, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if it's a cobra, hard cock for sure.
Hard cock, bro. So it's all about the serpents. Be as wise as a serpent. That's why they said that.
Wow, you really tying it all together.
The Naga people, bro, there were serpents. That's why when you go to these Hindu temples, they had giant serpents. The Naga people. Again,
what's the other one? What's the Mexican ones? Quetzalcoatl.
Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. The serpent symbolism is everywhere, and the reason is because it's tied to the divine feminine. Because snakes don't need a mate to procreate. So,
have you guys watched Conan the Barbarian lately? It's all about snake cults, bro.
Yeah, because immaculate conception. If you don't need a male to procreate, you have the immaculate conception.
Oh, that's why it's like it's considered the like the most like a divine animal in that way.
Divine feminine.
Sense.
Yeah,
that's because that means it's like the what's the thing that the Satanist,
the Baphomet,
the tits and everything. It's the same thing, right? It's both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because
dude, we're coming up on an age in our world with our technology. I was in high school and my one of my science teachers told me that at this time, this was 10 years ago, they were working on they could take a skin cell from a woman's arm, like just a skin cell or whatever, and reverse engineer it into a male sperm cell with her DNA, 100% her DNA, and inseminate herself.
This is what I'm saying, dude. It's like if you guys think or anybody thinks that this shit has gotten to this level inside of like 1,000 years supposedly, and this isn't happening everywhere through space, like I think we'd have to be joking ourselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because it doesn't take us this long. It took 1,000 years to make fucking email out of nowhere. I mean, this is crazy, bro. You know what I'm saying? You're telling me Jesus was banging rocks together 1,000 years later, we got fucking iPods. Get the fuck out of here, dog.
Well,
like somebody, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
dude, even 100 years ago, we were banging rocks together.
That's what I'm saying. Like another 500 years from now, we're gonna be a fucking iPod.
We're still banging rocks, bro. We're still moving that rock and banging rocks. We're still doing all that shit, bro.
This is what the scary. This is the scary part. I feel like if we keep going at this trajectory, we're all gonna get uploaded into some like aliens iPod. You know what I mean?
I don't think you're wrong, and I think Juan made a good point earlier. But I want to counter. He said that they use this technology to hold us down. I think that our technology can actually be extremely beneficial to us as a society, but it's in the wrong hands. You know what I mean? Like
transhumanist. No.
These fuckers want to put us in a computer. And like, no. We've had amazing technology for decades where we could stop quote unquote climate change. We could have free energy. We could live in a free and open society. Where there are no wants or needs for anybody, but you can't control people that way. The technology, while it is holding us down right now, it also can be our saving grace. You know what I mean? It really can. And I think we got to get the technology into the hands of the people and into the hands of those who want to help us. You know what I mean?
Well,
like, we trust Elon Musk, dude. He's not here to help you with anything. You know what I mean?
It takes a dragon to slay a dragon, and it takes a demon to kill a demon, okay? So here's the thing with that. There's enough movies about this shit where the AI takes over, okay? The AI is the one we want to stay away from because how Elon Musk wants to put us, they all want to live forever. That's why the Egyptians were so obsessed with the afterlife. That's why they mummified all their bodies, because they thought that they could come back later to bring their bodies back, right? They understood that the body is only a vessel. Now, when it comes to these guys that want to live forever and they want to put you in a fucking computer, who's to say they're not going to control you as soon as they put you in that computer? That much easier. Man. There's viruses.
That's the whole like Black Mirror idea, dude. You're gonna like get sucked up into this thing where it's gonna be like, dude, you're gonna live in paradise forever with the people that you love. No, motherfucker, I want to die and go to Valhalla with the rest of my dead people, Brett. Like, what the fuck is you talking about? Like, you know what I mean? Think about it. You're gonna be in a vacuum cleaner forever, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna be tight.
Yeah, it's not. And that's why, again, these great minds of back then, you had Francis Bacon writing about the new Atlantis, where it was this utopia of enlightened people. It was this only certain people, right? Like Plato's The Republic. Only certain philosopher kings could be ruling. Only certain people could procreate. Only certain musical instruments could be played. Only certain arts could be portrayed, because they understood that all this shit, all this sound, all these things talk to people's souls on a deeper level. And you can't inspire people because they're going to want to revolt. They're going to want to break out of the matrix, how Neo did. That's what we're all Neo in the matrix. We're trying to figure out the knowledge to break the fuck out.
Yeah, man. It's enlightened, like the Enlightenment period. What was it all about? It was all about music, art, poetry, coffee,
quadrivium,
architecture,
trivium, quadrivium.
Science was part of that too, man. I mean, the technology advancement during the Renaissance was equal to the art. You know what I mean? And I think it's because the ability for the mind to receive those messages. You know what I mean?
Well, we were talking about this before. It's like different things have different consciousnesses, right? In Plato's idea. So you've got mineral, you've got plant, you've got animal, you've got human, you've got planet, you got et cetera, right? It's like, how do these things relate? Like to what you just said, for example. Think about it. All right?
Yeah. So,
dude, where does one start and one stop? Like, are you evolving up the ladder? Are you devolving through the ladder? Is there a fucking ladder? Is it just a project? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird. You start putting that Plato spin on it. And Plato, what he was talking about in Republic is essentially an illuminated population, an Illuminati kind of situation, which is, remember Eon Flux, that movie? They live in this utopia that's controlled, right? That is a specific ideology pushed and all the other people squashed, right? Dude, it's the same type of thing over and over and over again. These people want to rule because they think they're better than other people. It's fucking weird, man.
It's hierarchy. It's
human nature, bro. It's human nature. We want to, because I think some people at some point are just lazy and they want other people to toe the fields for them. You know what I mean? Make the bread, stupid. I'm hungry.
Yeah, dude. So,
because it hasn't changed. We're all still on the same OSX 10. Nikola Tesla, OSX 10. Everybody that's ever lived, OSX 10. Apparently, it's not getting better.
Wait, that's an operating system.
I'm just saying, yeah. It just seems like we all got 10 toes and 10 fingers. Like you got the same. You were made of the same shit that, like Gandhi was made out of, for Christ's sake. So how come some people get it and some people don't? And the people that seem to get it, that are on top, they want this like system, this illuminated. Right, and then they hide all the information again. Right, sorry. It's weird. It just seems to be this same thing that's kind of like cyclical. We find it in every continent, in every culture, in every religion. There's the esoteric and the exoteric. It's weird, dude. We just kind of, there's those concentric circles again. It's like, I think we can fucking find pattern in all these things, and that's why you guys think I'm a bit of a skeptic, but it's like I just find bullshit in everybody's situations. Like, it's not that I want to, it's just that like a lot of it just seems like horseshit to me. Then you show us a shrimp that can break the speed of sound or whatever, it's fucking tits, and it's just like mind-boggling, and it's like, where else does it go? You'd have to imagine that it goes in every direction. You'd have to, right? I mean, fuck, dude. 100%. What are we within? Like, I think that's the real question. It's like,
as above, so below, bro.
But then what are we in? Are we in a video game that's projecting just for you? Are you on a piece of fucking checkerboard flying through time and space with a bubble on half of it? Is there a hollow earth on that thing? Like, you know, I just feel like sometimes like these grandiose questions are like kind of skimmed over at this fast level by all these facts that make them true. And at some level, you're telling me that you got fucked by a demon in a cave in Tibet. And it's like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's all the time we got today, unfortunately. So we'll wrap it up here, and we're gonna have to continue this conversation. So tune in next time on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z to figure out what Chris has found out about the Hollow Earth. Is it a flying frisbee throughout space and time, or is it a fucking volleyball throughout space and time? Are we in a simulation? Who the fuck knows? But we'll catch you next time on
Illuminati Confirmed.
Kyle.
Kyle.
Can you plug your social media once again for the listeners so they can find your work?
Yeah, real quick. Thank you guys so much for letting me hop on with you guys. Chris, it was great to meet you. Mark, Juan, a pleasure as always. I'm Kyle with the Big Dumb Podcast. Catch me on Instagram, the Big Dumb _podcast, and on all podcasting platforms. Appreciate you guys very much. Thank you.
Hail Bob, and send me your links,
Thank
Kyle.
you, brother.
Got you.
Awesome. That was fucking great.